Hello, everyone. Happy New Year to every single one of you guys here today. Hope you had a good break. Hope you enjoyed your New Year's Eve partying and had a good Christmas Day as well with your families or friends. I definitely did. Anyone in my family that got a bit stranded is my younger sister. She went to my older sister's place in Melbourne from WA, and she's stranded there. She has to go through all this paperwork now and get basically locked up, home for 14 days when she gets back to Perth. So, yes, 4 days of holidaying. So it was 14 days in lockup. Oh well, shit happens. Yes, I was thinking of travelling myself, and then I said, "Nah, I can't be bothered with all the hassle." The way the whole situation is, unfortunately. But just one outbreak, one person, and the world goes crazy. Yeah, a weird world we live in. Hippie New Year to you, Blinky, as well. Yes, to you, Lucas, as well. Feeling sleepy, mate. Well, how much exercise did you do, young lad? Hey, Dom, good to see you, mate. All the celebrations all round. That's good to see. Happy New Year to you as well, Cynthia. Good to see you. And Tinks like to, yes, and to you as well. That's a shortened version of it. Happy New Year. Lambs, same to you, mate. Yeah, exactly. I actually did I did actually brush my hair, as you can see. It's all brushed. I thought it was going to be on the bit on the hour, but yes, did manage to get it all together in time. Usually don't. Happy New Year to you as well, Kate. And Happy New Year to you as Nurse Trouble. Good to see you here. And the same to you, Shell. Yep, pretty good. Yeah, just my younger sister got stranded a bit. So, shit happens. Yeah, we had a pretty good New Year's Eve day. So it was 15 people all up. It could have been 20, but another 5 people didn't turn up. But that's a different story. So, but yeah, we had I was up until about, what was it? Watching actually on Netflix, Constantine. After we'd watched the fireworks, then we watched it night, and then it was about 1:30, and I was having my last vodka with Sean, and I go, mate, geez, Happy New Year, I'm going to fuck off out of here. I need to go and get some sleep. So back to home, because I was at his place. So since most of the family members was his brother, his mum, so yes, a few other friends of both mine and his. So it was a good get together. And a few kids, but we threw them in the other room, and they were watching Netflix and stuff like that. So they were basically doing their own thing, which is good. And the rest of us just sat around outdoors and had a few drinks and a bit too much food, and yeah, basically. right over here, all ready to go at 11ish. Still got 24 minutes before I can have my coffee officially. Not that I have to be that strict, but you know me, I like to be consistent. Hello, Necro Kitty. Good to see you. How are you, Harry? Happy kicking back this weekend. Yeah, I've, you know, we're doing a lot of walks and stuff like that, a bit of exercise, but, you know, no YouTube stuff. I haven't actually really watched much YouTube through this week. I did watch some of the archaeological stuff, like Sice, or whatever his name is, guy that does a lot of some old stuff, which was really nice. So that was enjoyable. But beyond that, I actually did look at some physics stuff that was interesting on dark matter and dark energy primarily. I don't really subscribe to those theories, but I just wanted to see where they were up to. Some of that sort of stuff is actually sort of based on required that there is a certain, you know, sort of supersymmetry and other things that haven't really been proven experimentally. So, and it was primarily the new CERN, you know, the super collider that's in CERN, and so what their program, their coming year program was. I just wanted to find out what sort of research they were going to do. So that was more my interest, to see whether they were going to basically get the energy levels up and try and actually look at some other aspects of matter. But yeah, they didn't get, there wasn't enough information provided. It was a bit scant, which was a bit annoying, to say the least. But anyway, you know, I think they may be behind schedule or something like that, so they don't really have really something concrete to provide in terms of some of their experimental work this year. So they got some just sort of general stuff which wasn't to my satisfaction. But you know, you move in, you know, it's pretty much they haven't updated anything from last year, to be really on. G'day, Harold. Good to see you. A hairpiece or who got me? Don't think so. Was that the actual things that you retracted? Remember, on this side, they still come up. Naughty, naughty boy. And yes, very, very good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I hadn't seen it for quite some time because we were actually looking at some of the other stuff. There was on Netflix, the Blade Runner 1 and stuff like that. And then we sort of started watching it, and then it sort of failed. And, you know, I was happy that it did fail. Wasn't, you know, the second one, I actually preferred the first one far more than the second one. But anyway, my mate wanted to watch the second one, but then we got to watch something much, much better. Yes. Good and evil, the struggle between good and evil. Yeah, Dylan, good to see you here. Hello, Deborah. And Fluffy Rainbows, good to see you as well. Mr. H, very formal. Yeah. I actually, one of his better, some of the stuff that he's done is, but that's one of his better ones. I actually really enjoyed that. I hadn't seen it for ages. It was just, you know, I'd actually been watching in more recent times, more like TV series and stuff like that. Pretty much like the Mandalorian, if anybody's seen it. That's quite interesting. You know, it's sort of a futuristic type, you know, with you know, sort of a warrior gone good from that sort of clan. So it's part of the Star Trek type, sorry, Star Wars type offshoot. And then, I mean, Discovery's sort of gone, God, it's gone PC and woke. Yes, unfortunately, I have to sort of ignore that part to even enjoy part of it. Yeah, yes, unfortunately, they know how to destroy things that are good in some regards. They've got somebody that's completely incapable of, you know, controlling managing her own life, manage a whole starship. I mean, that's just unrealistic garbage for, you know, let's get all the dysfunctionals basically as great leaders. Give us a fucking break. Anyway, I've had my bitch. Let's move on. Watching Lethal Weapon now. I don't actually like a lot of that sort of stuff. I did enjoy it, all the Lethal Weapon stuff. It's still just really good comedy. It's just, you know, yeah, it's a sort of action comedy, sort of stuff like that. I enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do have higher, you know, tastes in that than that sort of level, but I'm a very eclectic person. I mean, I will watch something like the, you know, the sort of the Mahabharata done by, you know, trying to think, Peter, what's his name, the British director, and, you know, something as that level, and then go to the other level. I'm very eclectic in my tastes, to say the least. What's the best way to lose all the fat I piled on? Lower your carbs. You should know that. You know, you can only do two things. You either can lower your fat or lower your carbs. There's no other way to lose weight, as in weight. Then the type of weight you lose is a different thing altogether. So the quality of nutrition and everything else depends on which path you take to avoid the Randall cycle. So, yes, Dom, yes, I've done the same thing. Don't you worry about that. Actually, yesterday I went through a whole fucking 80% of the tub. Then my mate said, because he had finished his whole tub, and he turns around to me and goes, do you want to take this ice cream home? And that was my reply. And then I sort of went home, dropped off some stuff, and then I felt guilty. And I said, oh, shit, I ate too much. You know, that was far too many, you know, because normally I would just have a bit of ice cream and all that and get about 20, 30 grams of sugar in terms of carbs. And then I sort of was close to 100, and I go, oh, shit. So I went up the hill, went all the way down the other way, and then I came around through the top of West Hobart, and then came back through, dropped off at Dad's, had a coffee with him, and then went back home. So I didn't feel as guilty. So I sort of burnt and reduced the actual damaging effects of all that sugar. So, yeah, look, we've all been guilty in this period. In that regards, you know, I usually try to stick to one day, you know, which is 30, 40 grams of carbohydrates, which is around ice cream, and it's primarily, you know, on the Saturday. But we're human after all, and we're always going to venture beyond that point, you know. So that's one thing. But if you're not doing it on a daily basis, it's less of an issue. But around this period, it's the season to be merry. And yes, we all sort of look. The same thing happened to me when I was working from home. That's why I've shifted back to working from work and sort of keeping things sort of a bit contained in that regard, because it's really easy to fall into old habits and all that. We're human after all. I mean, we're not, you know, younger people sort of, they're on the interwebs and all that. I mean, I'm mid-50s, you know, their sort of capacity, their mitochondrial density and their capacity to switch. It's like a young child. The younger the child is, the greater it is to able to switch between ketosis, between fat burning and all that. It's just the mitochondrial density and the muscle density to the frame and all that. A young child has to be very sedentary or have some underlying health conditions that are from birth in many cases to become very fat. The majority, and it's usually, and even when you actually get fat slightly around your teenage years, if you have this growth spurt, it cancels it out altogether. We see that all the time. Young people can handle far more carbohydrates and stuff like that. Once you get to our age, it's a hell of a lot harder. Any indiscretion, you pay for it much more. It's just simple as that. So it's part of that. But at the same time, I'm sort of focused on myself to try and get myself into much deeper ketosis this year, because that's the only way of getting rid of that third remaining and getting back to my youthful weight, as a young, 20-year-old. So that's going to be interesting. I've still got the piece of trousers in there, and I do want to see. I do slightly can put them on where before I couldn't, but I can't actually get them all the way up and actually, and buttoned. So we'll see how we go this year. Whether I could go back to putting on a pair of trousers that I had from my 20s. So that will be interesting. So, and everybody's basically journey is different. As I say to people, what we do to ourselves or what we actually commit to ourselves, or whether we fall off the wagon or whatever, it's just about getting back on the wagon. None of us are perfect, and none of us are, so yeah, hitting yourself over the head and trying to compete with these young people on the interwebs to try and actually get their body composition or that at my age or your age, mate, it's going to be a very hard slog in comparison. These guys could just drop it off like that on a dime nearly. We don't have that capacity. We've got less mitochondrial density. We've got more damage because of a lot of years. We don't have the same level of, and it will take a number of decades for us to actually fix a lot of that damage. That's what the journey we're on, the health part. I'm more focused on the health part and looking at what the best science says and applying that, because once you actually improve your health, you can actually, even at later age, if you can get greater mitochondrial density, fix a lot of that sort of stuff, you will actually start getting, you could say, a more youthful type of phenotype, which means that you'll be able to function far better than people at your age in a whole lot of aspects, including weight loss. So we're all on that journey to get to that point. Yes, and that's why we pay so easily. When we fall off the wagon, and we have these indiscretions, even for a short amount of time, we pay for it far more than a youngster. Where a youngster can put on, then within a week or two, it's just all off nearly. So, yes, unfortunately, another reason to fucking hate the little things. Just kidding. Anyway, a quick question, if I may. Yes, you may. How long should I be taking the gifts, Erasmus? He gets the baby virgin or Ruteri. We have both been on them for almost 2 months. I know that my mate has been on them now for, what's he been on? 3.5 months in that regard. The difference is it depends on the overall gut microbiome, because remember, these strains that we're actually using, they will slightly diminish because they're not the major groups, are very different. Those bifidobacteria, the firmicutes, and all these sort of stuff, they tend to be the sort of, even your lactobacillus isn't dominant. It's a much smaller grouping of your gut microbiome. And that's the reason why they're always going to be slightly crowded out. The reason why I usually say use these for about 6 months, and the reason for that is basically because we really want to go hard on the pathogenic bacteria. A lot of us have not had the perfect diet for a very long time, and so we've got a lot of underlying pathology. We've consumed a lot of shit through our life, and so we've really stuffed up the sort of the gut microbiome profile. Some people may have not been breastfed. Some people may, there's a lot of factors, have taken a lot of excessive antibiotics. So there's a whole lot of things why we may have pathogenic bacteria. At some point, we need to resolve and bring those numbers down so we can allow the beneficial bacteria to take hold. That's the whole thing, my discussion that I've been talking about, the B vitamins and that protocol. I haven't done the video yet, I know, but that will be part of trying to restore the beneficial bacteria, because they exchange B vitamins amongst themselves. You need to feed them to get them to grow, and then basically once they grow, then they can basically do their thing, so to speak, as long as you're not taking any more glyphosate in or any more antibiotics in. Then you sort of have to do that, repeat that process for another 3 months to get your B vitamin status and beneficial bacteria up again. Probably you may only need probably 2 at that stage, but still, it depends on how much antibiotics you take. You may be in the hospital being pumped full of antibiotics like there's no tomorrow, and because of an injury or whatever, you had a car injury, who knows. So at that stage, you may need to basically get on this protocol again. It's just the reality. Unfortunately, antibiotics do knock out a lot of the beneficial bacteria, the lactobacillus types, and some of the other types of beneficial bacteria, and it's just the way it is, So if you got all the bifidos and you got all the lactose type bacteria being knocked out, well, you're going to have to put them back in, because the other ones will take root. Unfortunately, they tend to be far more resilient to antibiotic. They're more resistant. We've been breeding antibiotic resistance in these pathogens, unfortunately. It's the reason why C. diff and all these things are up substantially. And that's another thing that L-Reuteri does. It actually combats C. diff. You've seen the program the video that I've done on C. diff on my channel, but also a number of other pathogens. And it's just one of those damn things. What do you do? So yeah, so I would say that I would keep it up for a bit longer, and it depends on a lot of other factors as well, So, how are you feeling? I mean, I know that Kitty, Necro Kitty's basically, resolved all her diarrhea issues and stuff like that. That's actually improved completely. It's resolved itself. He's probably taking a bit too much magnesium, in my opinion. Because she's taking way beyond the requirements. I mean, there's only a certain level of excretion rate, so I think she's wasting her money there. Just get a bit more sodium to fix up any cramping or whatever else is. So I would say, yeah, unless I knew exactly your history in terms of antibiotics, is it high? Is your glyphosate exposure being high over time? You know that, I don't. So you may have to take it a bit longer. How do you feel? How's basically your feces? What do they look like? How their composition? Do you feel like things are functioning better and all that? That's what I've noticed with a whole lot of other people. So you can only answer that question. How have you found it working for you? Yeah. I don't know whether she's answered further down. I know that for Necro Kitty, it's really worked well. It's really worked well for my mates. So I've only seen upsides, and I know that other people that have actually taken, like she's saying, yep, diarrhea is solved. I'm now constipated when I eat the yogurt, and I have normal to firm poops the day after. I don't have Reuteri yogurt. I didn't have Reuteri yogurt. Yep. So, and that's what my mates have found, that if they have milk, less of an issue. If they have far too much like yogurt I don't know whether it's the yogurt, whether it's the actual sugar in the yogurt that's playing a bit havoc with motility or some other factor. So I'm not actually sure, because I notice people that don't consume yogurt have the occasional milk, don't really get that constipating effect. So I don't know how, yeah. And it's just one of those things. And is it constipation or is it slowing down motility? Because that's two different things, you know. Constipation is difficulty actually getting the stuff out, you know, where you really stuff, where motility is a different thing altogether. You can actually slow down motility slightly in order to extract more nutrients. So the actual bacteria may be trying to extract more nutrients from that food because they are lactose loving, you know, lactobacillus, you know, so they try to extract more things out of the milk products. So in that regard. But then there's also that other bacteria, that German one, remember I talked about, that's basically the one that actually, which is that German soldier had that in the, so against dysentery and all that, and that tends to have a very anti-constipating effect. So different bacteria work differently, you know, so yeah, it's really, you know, that fixing some of that underlying stuff. You may need to hydrate a bit more when you take these bacteria. I've actually found that when people hydrate more, they don't have this issue. I think it's because the actual bacteria themselves tend to you know, utilize water in a certain way. Metafloor, yeah, that's it. Dom, thanks. Yeah, that's exactly the one. So it's one of those funny things, and there are slight differences in the way things respond in different people. I think at the same time, it may mean that some people don't have enough of the other bacteria, the other, you know, they may have too many firmicutes, you know, from the type that comes from eating a lot of plants for a very long time, and they tend to be very constipating. So when you actually combine the two, you may get more constipation. So we may need the B vitamin protocol. I may need to do that video earlier in order to try and restore the more of the beneficial, displace the firmicutes and stuff like that, in order to improve just the general gut function in that regard, because they do improve the general gut function in, yeah. So it may not be, it may be basically because, you know, one actually improves the general and knocks out, but you've still got the other, the firmicute types, which are still around, you know, because you don't have the other sort of beneficial ones, the dominance sort of, or ratios or balance. So it could be that factor as well. So the problem is we don't have any research. We have little research on this sort of stuff. They look at specific things or balances or stuff like that, but they don't really look in terms of diarrhea, constipation, all these other things. So yeah, it's a sort of a, I can only go on my own experience and the experience of others. G'day Sky, good to see you here. You know, so it's that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's a hard one. You sort of have to play around with some of this stuff. How can I heal my candida? Are you sure you have candida? That's the other thing. Remember, I actually showed you the most important thing is to basically improve your sort of digestive system. So candida overgrowth can actually happen for a number of reasons. So you may have poor oral hygiene, because, you know, you can get bacteria that comes down through the esophagus into the stomach. And if the stomach, and then can actually move into the small intestine. So if the stomach doesn't have sufficient acidity, you can actually drive, and it's usually that. Two things: acidity of the stomach and bile. And so bile is needed to cleanse out the small intestine and then get recycled at the jejunum right at the end. So it gets recycled and back in about 90% of it. And then there's a certain amount that is produced. To improve bile function, taurine is very important for bile, and MK4, very important for bile synthesis and bile function, and also clearing out sludge, things like that. So that's all important. So it's a bit of choline, but you can get that from eggs. So those are the sort of things on that side. And then the other one is actually acidify your stomach with HCLs. If you've, stuff that I've talked about in the past to basically try and actually, and when it comes to the oral part, there is the new strain now, the one that can improve, but you can actually improve also your, with salt, using salt and iodine or iodinized salt as a sort of something to gargle in your mouth and stuff like that, to improve some of the actual, bacterial strains that you want in there and others that you don't want. So you can do stuff like that. So it's a more multiple different things that are required to improve that general, but the most important thing is get the pH of the stomach down and resolve any gallbladder issue if it does exist. So those are the two primary things. Yes, and this month I will be doing the videos covering those, and I've actually shown some of the actual medications that can actually break the actual outer coating of the candida. So it basically can't protect itself, so it can degrade that coating that protects itself. So a number of these things. So that I've shown that before, that medication or the supplement, but I'll go into a bit of depth with all that sort of stuff this month. So I did promise those in January, so they are coming, and there will be those protocols that people can apply to improve those things. But in the short term, try and get the acidity of the stomach up, because that plays a big role. Everything really, as I've been saying from the first time you've met me, it all starts in the stomach. Fix the stomach. That's fine, Sky, if you can't stay. Yep. Just dropped in to hit the like button. Thanks. Appreciate it. So anything that basically can improve, your gut microbiome and stuff like that. Sorry, your stomach acidity, is really important. So stomach acidity is so damn important, and most people, because they've been eating inappropriate foods for a very long time, tend to be running a much higher pH, not a low enough. It's the reason why some people, because they tend to have a pH of around 3+, when they eat raw meats, remember, don't require as low a pH. Remember the chimps, their pH is around the 3.5, and they eat a lot of raw meats. Again, because they can handle them, fresh raw meat, in that regard. But the problem is they don't need as much fat where we do. Our bodies require far more, and that's where the issue lies. So while you get a bit of relief in actual eating without having a lot of the sort of effects, the problem is you don't resolve the problem just because you've gone raw meat. So the problem is still there. It's just being masked. That's the only problem for a lot of these people. So it doesn't fix it. And when they do go on to cook meats and stuff like that, they feel, doesn't. Well, because you haven't resolved the issue. Simple as that. Humans 1.5 million years ago, hominins basically used fire to extract more nutrients. Simple as that. And so you tend to actually have to consume far more than you would normally to extract the same amount from raw. So it has its benefits like enzymes and a whole lot of other things, but at the same time, too much isn't a good thing either. and it basically doesn't resolve the underlying problem. When you cook, it actually reduces the pH even further. So it has an effect on the pH. So, you know, cured meats that have got a lot of salt, salted, cooked, cured, or raw cured meats with a lot of salt and stuff like that. Chloride, remember? You need the chloride part for stomach acid. You know, so you need to basically initially help it with the HCLs and combine that and slowly try and bring down, because as you bring down that stomach acid, that pH, and you increase the stomach acidity, you will basically start killing off all this overgrowth in your stomach. And as you kill off the overgrowth, that overgrowth, you know, is much harder. And if you're able then to get the pH low enough to basically then get the bile to function properly, and you may need, it depends if you've got a dysfunctional gallbladder or whatever, you may need a combination of enzymes and bile to basically then provide that cleansing effect to the small intestine. So that's the other important thing. So it depends where you're at any given time, but yes, something to look forward to in this month. Temp sign up for Disney shit. What's the new Star Wars show? Fair enough. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah, I know. Yes, a lot of people are doing that sort of stuff, especially in this. Yeah, you can do a temp thing. You know, I've sort of watched some of this sort of stuff at other people's places. You know, so, and sometimes you can actually get temp sign-ups and stuff like that as well, and I've done that as well. Yes. Do you ever check out foreign databases, Harry? Like Mary goes to Russian source. Yeah, I do that as well. I mean, you know that Dylan, I've been talking about Russian research in deuterium. I've been talking about Hungarian research. I've been talking about even Iranian research, you know, some really good Iranian research as well on testosterone and a whole lot of other things. So I've been looking at research from very diverse countries, from China, South Korea, Taiwan, parts of Indonesia on vitamin D, stuff like that, from basically all sorts of areas around the world. Yes, I do check foreign databases far more, and I find far more useful mechanistic studies and better controlled studies and experimental studies in these countries rather than in North American or the English-speaking countries. English-speaking countries tend to do far too much epidemiology, observational stuff, and create spurious associations where even when they're looking at microbiome studies, they're still applying epidemiology. Like they get people in and they go, well, we're going to look at your gut, and then we're going to basically ask you to fill out a questionnaire. It's a bit like the Mendelian studies where they look at genetics and then they just do their questionnaire. So you've got epidemiological, very uncontrolled information from people that don't really know how to answer questionnaires. And some of the questionnaires are limited in what you can tick, as we've seen with Mary, explaining the sort of bullshit that's actually in the nutritional world, how they exclude a whole lot of things, and people, you know, they skew the data in terms of what people are really eating. And then they look at genetics. So basically, you know, at most, all you can say is that if you eat this shit diet and you've got certain genetics, you're more likely to have worse outcomes. That doesn't mean that basically those same genetics wouldn't work much better in a different dietary setting. So if you're on an Atkins diet, they never look at Atkins diet in these Mendelian studies, Atkins based on the genetics. No, they look at the standard sad diet that everybody is eating, this crap. And that's what they base it on. They say, oh, look at this, you know, and I go, well, it tells you nothing. It tells you just people on a crap diet. Basically, some people genetically can basically respond better and have slightly better outcomes than somebody else with other genetics. What's that telling me? It's not telling me it's not comparing apples to apples, so to speak, or stuff like that, or looking at the different types in the right way. It's the same stuff with the gut microbiome research in a lot of countries, especially the US, Australasia, and it's questionnaire based. It's not clinical. It's not experimental. It's not basically randomized trials or studies. It's really basically, oh, we're going to look at the gut microbiome profile of all these people. Most people are eating shit. 90% of people are eating shit. And so they're looking at that. It's a bit like the RDIs. They keep on bringing the RDIs down. Vitamin D and all these RDIs keep on coming down. Why? Because they're looking at the general population and they're saying, what's the average? And so that average keeps on coming down. That's just crap. That's not telling you really. That's not based on experimental to see what is really required for the proper healthy physiology. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of shenanigans that actually take place. And that's the problem that we've got out there, unfortunately. So, yeah, just keep that in mind, that's part of that nonsense. And that's why, yes, I do look at a lot of stuff from elsewhere. And you've seen some of the stuff that I've shown here that's from different parts of the world. So, yes, I definitely do. I mean, if you've been on this channel long enough, you would have seen some of the studies that I've shown from different countries. So do check some of my other streams that I've brought up stuff, earlier ones, and some of the other things. Anyway, let's move on. For Candida, would you take Candida biofilm supplements B50 for no more than 3 months? B50 you have to actually, and they have to be all 50s, you know. Probably folate is the one you can be slightly an exception, but all the others have to be 50s. And so, but that's the sort of supplement you want to be taking, because not all of them are the same. They have other things in there, and that, you know, it just has to be all just the B vitamins, nothing else. They have to be all 50. So, yeah. So that's basically to restore your gut microbiome. That is not basically to deal with Candida. Candida has other aspects to it, which I just spoke earlier. And there will be a video this month going into it, exactly what you need to do. A lot of this sort of stuff is all the same. Candida overgrowth, you know, gallbladder issues, stomach issues, malabsorption issues. They're all part of the malaise of not eating species appropriate foods and fucking up your digestive system. And there'll be variations, and I will touch on the variations and how to sort of hit every prong in the appropriate way to basically get the best result. Anyway, let's move on. Not that old. Fuck, that's 60s. I'm a 70s child, not a 60s. Well, I was born in the, well, I was an infant in the 60s, you know, mid 60s, you know. So I was an infant at that stage. It was only I was in the 70s was I basically, you know, a young child. So, and it wasn't until the actual late, that I was actually a teenager in the late 70s. So not hippie trousers, but I did wear for a period flares. Yeah, I know. God, there goes the neighbourhood. Yes, but no, these trousers are just jeans, just old jeans, old Levi jeans that are still going. Actually, the material of the old Levi jeans was really fucking good. You know, today's stuff is shit in comparison. It's all made to not last that long. Years. No, that would take far too long. I've discussed glycans before about the little sugar molecules on cells, for signaling purposes between them. So I have covered that before. I'm not covering it again. You'll have to check the other live streams, but I will do a comprehensive on glycans and all that. Don't overthink some of the stuff that is actually being peddled out there about glycans, about this magical thing about glycans. There's no science, zero proof, zero experimental, zero. Basically, the glycan research is where microbiome was years ago. That's how little exists in terms of glycans. So all we know is they are signaling molecules on the surface of different things like cells, like within the pericellular matrix of certain organisms, and the bilayers of the lipoproteins on the outer coating. So, and it's all about signaling, and we don't really understand it. Everybody's speculating, but they have no fucking idea. So don't subscribe to any nonsense, because there is no. When I push some of these people, they basically say, well, we think it may be doing that. And I go, well, where's your proof? They don't have any. So these are rabbit holes that we've gone down this path before, when people were talking about the gut microbiome or this or that, and then making a big fuss about certain things, and all that didn't pan out at all. It actually backfired on them, because they were trying to push the fiber issue. And then the fiber issue went to shit, because we realized that less fiber was actually better for our guts than more fiber. So, and we've seen the research, we've seen some of the actual fiber, how can actually increase Prevotella and certain other types of strains of bacteria that can increase interleukins, and create more inflammation in the gut. So how's that good? So it's the reason why now the so-called plant-based doctors and researchers, when they look at the gut, they talk in these sort of general airy-fairy ways. Oh, we need to sort of balance it and all this, because they don't want to talk about specific strains. They know that their diet drives, which causes inflammation. So now some of these guys have actually jumped onto the glycans and saying, oh, how sugar is so important in terms of, the body can produce all the sugar it needs. It doesn't need to be basically, guzzled down in order to provide material for glycans and stuff like that. That's just fucking nonsense, So they got zero research. All they can do is just talk that they do exist, and the density of that forest on the cell wall actually plays a big role, but they don't know why it plays a role and how it plays a role. So they're just talking shit out of their orifice, as they usually do when they have zero experimental stuff, because they want to push something. And eventually, as the research comes along and explains a lot of this sort of stuff, we'll realize that they were just talking shit in the first place. So don't waste your time with all that. At the end of the day, if you have a species-appropriate diet, you'll maintain good, because remember, the foundation is the actual membrane itself. And we know that a low carbohydrate diet is less inflammatory to the actual structure wall of the actual cells. Those cells are much better when you're eating a species-appropriate diet. When you're not eating a species-appropriate diet, we know we get more aldehydes, more reactive products in the system that actually do damaging effects on the cell walls, or cell membranes, if you want to call them, So got to be very careful about this sort of stuff, because they like to push their bullshit and all that, It's just the way it is. They find a new thing, a new, horse to jump on and sort of, drive like mad with all their nonsense and all their speculations and whatever else. I'm sick of it, That's why I call up their bullshit and say, where's your experimental proof? Show me where you can demonstrate that there is a proper connection here. They can't. And they run and hide. They hate people like me, because they can bullshit to other people that haven't looked into it sufficiently, but they usually run and hide with me, because I can pull up all the information and go, well, this is all we know. So what are you guys talking about? You're only speculating. Fuck off. Anyway, thanks, Harry. So it's not just my fault. It's been, oh, well, you've been eating a whole lot of sugar, haven't you? For years and years, you've been eating a whole lot of high deuterium shit, which has basically damaged your mitochondria. So it is your fault. Just kidding. Well, you didn't know, and none of us knew at that stage when we were guzzling down all those sodas and everything else under the sun. So, or eating the pizzas with soda that I used to do. So, yes, we basically did severe damage because we just overloaded ourselves with too much deuterium, and our body couldn't clear out. So what happens? Let alone we slapped on shit because we didn't want to burn from the sun, and we kept away from the sun so we couldn't actually deplete. So all year round we're indoors, hiding from the sun, hiding from UV to deplete, and eating shitloads of sugar and sodas and stuff like that, and damaging and overloading ourselves with so much deuterium, our bodies just could not deplete fast enough. And as we couldn't deplete fast enough, we were doing more damage to more of the electron chain, the ATP synthase, right at complex 5. We were damaging more of the complex 5s within our mitochondria. And the more we did that, we lowered that density of the capacity to generate sufficient energy. So, yeah, so this is the sort of the fairy tale story that we've all gone through and we've all suffered as a consequence. And it takes a while. I mean, to actually, you need expensive, as you know, stem cell type therapy to rebuild new cells which are packed with mitochondrial density in order to do that. I mean, exercise, fasting, nice and stuff like that do help, but they help to a degree, but they're not, it's hard to build at an older age new stem cells to the same degree, so, but as I said, the other option is taking that expensive path, and not everybody can afford that. So anyway, the person who I'm talking about and his product. Ease. Yeah, she should. Yeah, if she does a good video, I will post it on, if she wants, that is. I mean, if she wants to have it posted on somebody else's channel, that's fine. I don't have a problem, but I'm willing to post it. Stuff I don't do. It's not really me. Workout. You got some fans there. Yep. Covered that. Covered these. For those of us drink milk on a carnivore diet, how much should we be worried about the carbs in milk taking us out of ketosis? I usually have a glass of milk in the evening. That's about it. And I may have a second glass sometimes midday if I'm actually either working from home or at home on the weekends. But generally speaking, with my coffee, if I'm at work, I'd probably get about 2 glasses of milk, which isn't a lot of carbohydrates, in that regard. At most, it's going to be around about the 40 grams, that's still low carb. And it's also the physical activity. I mean, I walk up the stairs at work, from the, because we've moved down to the 2nd floor from the 9th floor. So I walk up to the 9th floor, then go down the other stairs and come back down. So I do that about, at least 3 times a day. So I'm actually depleting a lot of the glycogen. And so a lot of that will go back into just glycogen stores. So it'll be like a blip in that regard. So it depends. Like the Maasai consume up to 4.5 liters on average, but they are very physically active. And on top of that, they also basically do a lot of the type of activities and also the composition of theirs. Remember, they don't remove the fat. So when you're doing 4.5 litres, you're doing a more fattier and lower carbohydrate version of milk. That means stuff that's coming out of the tit has a completely different ratio. All milk, they remove the fat out, which is cream, which they sell as cream, or dairy. I mean, they're all the same. Even basically the raw milk, companies that do raw milk and stuff like that, they remove the cream because they sell it separately. So when we're talking about a sort of a Maasai version, you tend to have like 70% fat type thing, and you're only having about the 20 odd, and so it's about 5%. The carbohydrate content isn't that high because of you've got the that high cream component in there, so it changes. So even though they're having quite a few litres, it's not like having quite a few litres of our milk. It's like having, you could say, a third. So we would be, in terms of, or possibly even less than that, in that regard. So you can't. So when it comes to us, it's only a couple of glasses of milk and that's it, to be the equivalent in terms of the carbohydrate content. And at the same time, you've got to be physically active. So most people that are going to be sedentary or sitting in an office, stick to brie, I say, because brie at least only has per 100 or 3.5 ounces, only has 0.5 gram of carbohydrate, very little. So if you have, let's say, brie, you consume 7 ounces or 200 grams, you're basically only going to get 1 gram of carbohydrate. That's it. So you can have quite a bit of dairy and quite a bit of MK4 and everything else under the sun, fat-soluble vitamins or whatever, and get very little carbohydrate. So it depends on the dairy, and it also depends on what its composition is once it comes from the producer. So, if you've got like an animal and you're actually getting it directly from the animal, yeah, you can actually do a bit more, especially if you're physically active. So it really depends. And we don't want to be in continuous ketosis, but that's the other reason. Traditionally, populations consumed, usually 1.5 meals a day or 2 meals a day. That's it. They weren't eating every single moment of waking moment. So you're eating at a very restricted thing. Greeks got off the land, came in midday, around 11ish, they'd have their first meal. Then they'd have a snack with some coffee in the middle of the day. And then in the afternoon, they'd have their dinner. That'd be it. That's what a lot of populations did for a very long time. So very, very different in that regard. And in the Greek populations, primarily younger people that are consuming most of the milk, not older people in that regard. Older people have some dairy, but don't have as much as young people. It's more encouraged within the young people because they're growing. So that's another thing. But if you're going to do milk, you want to be physically active. You can't basically just be sedentary and do milk. As that's my opinion anyway. And I usually do it like I'll lift some weights in the evening, and after I've lifted those weights, then I will basically have my milk. So it usually just goes to glycogen, and it usually goes into supporting muscle protein synthesis. So and that's what I want, So yes, drive it into the right stuff, not into the wrong stuff. You don't want it in the adipose tissue, you want it in the fat cells. I suspect that's not a question for me. Let's move on. What do you think? Set too high for magnesium? Well, the excretion rate is about 120 milligrams for most people. You don't sweat magnesium, it's in the cell, so it's not like salt that gets sweated out. It's primarily in the cells, magnesium and potassium. You don't sweat it out. Anybody tells you that you sweat heavily magnesium or potassium, they run They are crazy. We only sweat primarily. We lose a few minerals, don't get me wrong, through sweating, but it's primarily you're losing salt. Okay, that's what you're losing, sodium. So at the end, we have a certain amount, and I mean, just think of it. Who really needs magnesium? Who really burns through magnesium? People that are high carbohydrate diet. Carbohydrate metabolism requires a lot of magnesium. Fat metabolism doesn't. It just doesn't. You've got to understand that. It's carbohydrate metabolism. All the RDIs on magnesium are based on carbohydrate metabolism. And I've shown, eating certain foods will give you more than your excretion rate. So it's a non-issue in that regard. Most people's, I know people nowadays that take magnesium and they still got cramps. Everybody's complaining, oh, I've got cramps, I've got cramps. I go, well, what's your sodium level looks like? The electrical of your nerves and all that. You need sodium for that. And I go, what's your sodium level? They go, what do you mean? Are you getting enough sodium in your diet? Once upon a time, we didn't have refrigeration. We salted everything about 10 times what we salt it now. What's your sodium level? And usually when they actually increase their sodium, it all goes away. They no longer have cramps, muscle cramps. The only time I get muscle cramps is when basically my sodium levels are a bit too low. And that's usually when I'm in the tropics. And I go, oh, I've sweated quite a bit today. And I sweat profusely in that environment because of the high humidity. And I realised, and I've got into the habit now of basically putting salt in my water or or extra salt on my food, sort of dry salt type approach. And, I no longer have that problem in the tropics either. Yes, don't fear. Yes. So, yeah, go and check. I've done a video on the excretion rate and all that, and you can actually get the full information about that. So, yes, go check that out, Dylan. And if you watched it ages ago, rewatch it. That's all I can say until you actually get that understanding and understand what's actually happening in your physiology. Magnesium only gets depleted. It's like B1 thiamine. You only get a B1 thiamine deficiency on a carbohydrate diet. You don't get it on a species-appropriate diet. We only need half the amount. The thing that we need more on a diet based on eating a species-appropriate diet is our riboflavin levels go up. Our requirements for riboflavin go way up. And that's where, but if you're eating enough meat, you're getting shitloads of riboflavin. So it's less of an issue. Yeah. And a lot of the sort of nonsense out there, people are still peddling about, the MTHFR, another piece of shit, crap, nonsense. Get your riboflavin. I've done a video on it. I show quite clearly, randomized, controlled. This is best research, which shows a dose-dependent response. You take more riboflavin, homocysteine goes down because it actually improves the functioning of this enzymatic pathway to deal with converting homocysteine back to methionine. So it eliminates the problem. Yes, it's like all this sort of crap. If you're not eating species appropriate, you're going to require more magnesium, more thiamine, more of many things. On a species appropriate diet, your requirements go down. And the funny thing is, we're getting more, and people on the SAD diet are getting less of these sort of nutrients, which they require more to metabolize their crap. That's why it ends up in their fat tissue anyway, because they can't utilize it. Huh? Okay, too much information. Way too much information. Get a bit more hydration, my dear, and some salt in there. Hi, Bo. Good to see you. And yes, and that is the one that actually does improve the constipation side of things. She's out of here. She dropped in. It was nice of her. Look, it's nice when you get people, because they've got their busy life as well, and they've got their own channel to run and stuff like that, so that keeps them busy. But it's nice when they turn up and say hello, you know. So it's, yes, I do it as well, you know. We need to be supportive of each other. Anyway, I started at B150 because Don told me to. Okay. You know, do you need it? Probably not. You know, so, but then again, you know, if you, I don't know, what are you consuming? You know, so my sort of attitude is, and that's why we want to do that video about the B vitamins and trying to restore, you know, it's a combination of using certain types of bacterial strains to fight the nasties, to bring them down in numbers, you know, making sure that the gut, the bile is all working properly to try and keep the numbers of the nasties down. You know, it's all interlinked, guys. You know, you've got to get the digestive system all working properly. It's all interlinked. And once you do, magical things happen in terms of digestion, you know. So we're here because we have damaged ourselves. We're not here because we are healthy beyond belief. No, we are here because we've done a lot of damage over a number of decades, and now we're trying to reverse that. And there's no magic pill. You know, you've got to basically fix the stomach, fix any gallbladder issue, fix any pancreas issue, you know, with reparative approaches, fix your small intestine to make sure that it's clearing properly. It's basically recycling the bile properly. There's all these sort of things. And sometimes there are slight variations of the same protocol that everybody needs to do to resolve all these different things. Sometimes we view these things in a very reductionist or very narrow way and say, oh, I've got a stomach issue, I've got a gallbladder issue, I've got this. No, usually you have all of them. That's the funny thing. Usually you have a bit of SIBO or a bit of overgrowth, it's, you know, because basically nothing's working properly, you know. And if the stomach's not working properly, usually everything below it is not working properly either. So and that's why when you try one thing and you go from one guru or expert doctor or whatever, and then, you know, that doesn't really fix it. And you go, oh, it must be something else. And you're chasing your tail continuously. No, you got to fix your entire digestive system. The initial videos that I'm going to do this month will be looking at touching on these different aspects, but then I'm going to bring it all together on a sort of a more holistic, total package of how to step by step do things to resolve all these underlying things. Because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I would rather get even good bile flow, even if it's, you know, let's say it's not completely affected, but it's at 70% performance or 80% performance. And probably some say, oh, I may have very little sludge. I don't really have a problem. You know what? Fix it. Let's fix everything. You know, let's fix everything to flow properly. Let's just get rid of all these problems, you know, through a couple of months of going through fixing that. You know, make it a New Year's resolution. You know, I'm going to fix my gut once and for fucking all. That's the sort of stuff. You've got to commit yourself and doing little increments here or trying to approach this or that, like we all have been doing for some time, usually doesn't really fix, you know, it sort of it's like a Band-Aid solution for this part, Band-Aid solution for that part. you know, and it's just, you know, you go, well, you're, as I said, chasing your tail. Anyway, but in survival mode, I'm sure better. I've made through the January, but do you shell and hope to 021 is great. Yes, I hope that for you, Bo, and I hope that for everyone else as well. Yes. You got some hugs there. Good. Oops. And same problem I mentioned earlier here. It was very painful to poo. Luckily, only very occasional due to meds. Yeah, look, meds can do that as well. Yeah, some meds can interact with a number, with both food and with some of the gut bacteria. There's a lot of stuff in the literature you go through and actually see and go, oh, that's interacting with that way, you know. So yeah, meds can really be problematic in a lot of regards. Yes. Never an easy thing, and sometimes that's the hardest thing, because if people are on meds can have some meds can have a constipating effect or a diuretic effect, and you're trying to resolve some other stuff, and you've got these meds in there, and it's, you know, it's really just skewing the interactions, and you go, oh shit. And sometimes you have to just say, look, I'm going to put up with this just to resolve all those things. I'm going to have these, you know, funny reactions, and then eventually when I'm through those couple of months, you know, at least we've resolved all the way these organ systems are working, and then the issue of sort of like the med side of or angle or whatever becomes less of an issue, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, saga advice. We're getting endometriosis. I do want to make a video on endometriosis. It has to do a lot with hormonal issues, which causes these sort of growths. But yes, that would necessitate a longer chat. So, but I am in the process. I think it's a February video that I'm in my list. I've got a whole list of when I'm going to do it in which month. I think it's a February thing. So yes, stay around and you'll get something in that regard. I don't want to give too much away, so to speak, at this stage. Yes. We do have to impede certain growth pathways. Anyway, have no heating. Hot water doesn't help this time of the year. Long story, don't ask. Okay. Oh, shit. Look, I hope things get resolved for you, you know. Yeah. Any tips on how to get around these? Sounds really interesting. Go and search for them. Actually, some of the university sites in some of these countries do have, so you can actually like do a Google search for the university and then go into looking at their English, because not all of it's in English. Look, you can still download it and actually put it through a translator, you know. So I've done that. So yeah, but some of them are quite good. They do have like English translation, even in some of the Arab countries, you know. I think the best databases in terms of English translations, I mean, the Saudi Arabian universities tend to produce their stuff both in Arab and in English, both, which is very convenient because I just go and download the English version. Sometimes they include it, so you'll get it and it will be split in half, Arab and English, or it will basically be Arab and then English at the bottom, or it will basically just be a separate link. So yeah, it depends on the country and stuff like that. There are variations. A lot of the stuff out of India tends to be in English, which is good. There is some that is in Hindi. But they do provide in both. sometimes the way they actually do it, because they'll have the abstract and they'll have it in both languages, and you have to go, what am I reading? You know, so, and they can have it in different ways. But anyway, it's, yeah, once you've done it a couple of times, you eventually get used to it in that regard. But go to the universities of those countries. You can actually Google universities in different countries and then Google and see what research they're doing. Because usually sometimes on like Wikipedia, you'll actually find the university and they'll tell you what sort of research they tend to do. So there's different ways of doing it, yeah. But it does take a bit of an effort, let's put it that way, Dylan. It's not a straightforward thing. If it was, everybody would be doing it. So now you know how I waste hours trying to research things and find things in different databases. Yes. Yes. Those that are sort of yeah, sometimes people that are in rural areas can, you know, I've known that people like in Australia in certain remote areas have had cases where, you know, the rural location you've lived in becomes smaller. The bank goes, the post office goes, you've got no access to basically do it, and you have to go to the other town, drive to the other town. Now, what happens if your car breaks down? You're stranded, or you can't get to that location until somebody comes in and basically helps. You know, you can try and get a favor from somebody to basically, you know, so it can't, you know, you can have all these problems in these sort of areas. I don't know exactly where Bao actually lives, so I can't comment, but I've known of situations like this in Australia where, especially with people that are in middle age or older that get in sort of trapped in smaller towns this way, and it can be a big problem for them. Yes. Also, we have a lot of we'll have like flooding in some areas that can actually happen in certain seasons, and the areas can be cut off for, you know, for quite some time. Like bridges have been, you know, literally destroyed. And sometimes what happens is, I mean, I know in Tasmania, for instance, we've had some bridges that have basically been removed because they're so damaged, and then people have been, like, they've put up barriers, and then people are forced to reroute to other areas to be able to access things, and that can be, you know, they can't do it very often. There's a lot of, you know, things like that can happen as well. So, yes, I'm well aware of this sort of stuff. Well, I'm aware of it because in the mapping area, we sort of have to map this sort of stuff. We get notifications and we get told about, oh, these changes have happened, or this agency or council or whatever have closed this off. And if I need to find out, I may call the council and find out from one of their offices. But, you know, so we can update our mapping products and stuff like that. So people, when they go out, they know, oh, no more bridge there. Yes. Mead. Yep. Okay. All that rough. Ooh. Yeah, look, I don't make Ruteri yogurt. I just basically just consume the Ruteri on its own as it is. So, but, you know, my sort of bowel movements are fine in that regard. Actually, I will have to provide. I just forgot. Just remembered. I did get because I did my last. What was it? A year ago, where you have to, you know, the government, you take a bit of shit and send it to the government so they can actually analyse it and all that. And that was all clear. Remember, my vegetarian younger sister didn't come back as perfect. Yes, yes. So that was something that I have to do now. I just realised I forgot about it. You reminded me. I'm surprised the government hasn't sent me another notification. Why haven't you sent your shit to us? Because I forgot. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Look, it's not that basically dairy constipates you. It's if the gut microbiome, certain types of bacteria aren't there present. I mean, this is only one strain. What it's doing is it's eliminating certain other strains that are not beneficial, but do slightly increase like diarrhea type thing. Now, they're pathogenics. They're not good. You shouldn't be in a very constant, this diuretic state, having severe diarrhea and losing a lot of nutrition. That's not a healthy thing. But when you eliminate them and you don't have some of the other beneficial bacteria that can actually provide proper functioning of the actual, and then you may have a situation where you may have diarrhea, but the motility of, that means the muscle of your gut isn't working properly and hasn't been. But because you've had diarrhea or very loose stools, you've never realized that was a problem. And now you've resolved the diarrhea by reducing the level of these nasties in there. But the problem is, now you've got a problem there. The actual motility isn't working properly because it hasn't worked properly for a long time. And that has to be resolved with getting some of these other bacteria in there. And sometimes motility can actually be affected by the axis between your small intestine and also your stomach and all that. There is a connection there. There's an association, a very strong association in the research. They haven't really looked at it because they view it in a reductionist way, unfortunately. But it does play a role, because we know people have been eating this sort of stuff for many years and they don't have these issues. It's really that the microbiome plays a big role, and it's the interaction with the actual gut itself, and that's where things can be out of whack. All that tells me is that you've got underlying gut unresolved issues. That's what it means, that need to be resolved. And they can take a while, a few months, and stuff like that. Getting some of those beneficial bacteria back in can help, and making sure, is your stomach working properly and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of, and general gut and movement, are they all working properly and moving things properly? So there's a lot of that sort of stuff. Is the electrical state of those things working properly? So then sometimes I've found that increasing niacin and some of these B vitamins, obviously, because that's actually going to improve the energy production and functioning of these tissues as well. So it's a lot of that sort of stuff. There are going to be more videos in regards to improving that general function. It's stuff that other people haven't done. They talk about it, but they talk about it as if it's a discussion piece, but they don't provide any scientific evidence for how to make these things. That's what I'll be providing. Yes. Do you think? Let's read it properly, Harry. Harry, what do you think was the main driver in our brain's growth? Fat. That's an easy one, mate. Fat. It's all it is. Because remember, the chimps are eating more than 1 ton of meat in the wild. They don't have big brains. It's not the protein. It's the fat. That's all it is. That's why we have higher fat storage, because we need the fat. Simple as that. I mean, they're in a glycolytic state. They get plenty of glucose. They don't oxidize fat. They oxidize glucose, whether from protein or other sources. They only get short chain fats in terms of some ketones and stuff like that. But they primarily, it's coming from the glucose from meat. But when it comes to us, we've got big fat storage. Why? Because we need to support a big brain. Our gut shrunk, and our brains grew, and our small intestine grew, and the small intestine takes in a couple of things. It can take in glucose, can take in fat as energy, and that's what it's supposed to do in great amounts. And that great amounts is then provided and depends on what the foods that you're eating, what sort of things are going to be provided. But look, our brains grew because of fat. And I've actually, remember the thing that I did with Bart, which actually showed quite clearly that even when you drive with insulin really low levels, if you're in ketosis, you've got to get energy from somewhere. Ketones are only about 18%. So you're getting very little. So where's the rest coming from? It's coming from fat. We know that there's a limit for rats up to 20% to get fat. For humans, we don't know where the limit is. But, if you extrapolate from that research that I showed, which was the Russian research, and you extrapolate from these amounts, well, you're potentially looking at something at least 60 to 70% coming from fat in terms of energy. And then also the structural material. Let's not forget, most of the actual structural material is in the form of fat. Even ketones, when they go into there, they can be converted back through enzymatic pathways back into fats to be basically both oxidized or incorporated into fat tissue. So, in the fat tissue of the brain, that is, so yeah. So the reality is that we don't really know how much. There's a myth going around that we don't get fat into the actual brain. If that was the case, humans, when you drive them into ketosis and drive their insulin down like Cahill did back in the sort of 70s when they were doing those experiments, which you didn't need all this sort of, he was able to demonstrate quite clearly these people weren't passing out, even though you drove glucose to very low levels. You had some ketones there, but drove. So, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's important. So, yes, it was the fat that grew our big brains. Exactly. Well, you fix the diarrhea anyway with the rotary. Have you tried pink salted water? Actually, I actually don't use Himalayan pink salts, and I'll tell you why I'm against them. Is because they tend to actually concentrate far more heavy metals. So I give the pink Himalayan sea salts, salts a miss. I don't basically consume salt that comes from, especially the northern hemisphere where there's more microplastics, and I tend to basically go for salt like lake salts or dry lakes, and get the salt from there. In particular from which I've shown you before, Western Australia. Yes, that is my source of salt. No microplastics and no heavy metals. Okay, how do we determine RDIs? Be lazy, mostly unhealthy population basis. Exactly. Yeah, all the averages. That's why the RDIs every year keep on going down. It's crazy. It's not based on any real research on what really the body requires. Yeah, it's just sort of all this average consensus. That's what it sort of is. It's a consensus that this is the average that most people can survive. It seems like, you have to basically start showing pathology before they'll stop. But as long as the majority of the population are subclinical but not pathological in their levels of deficiency, then they basically say, oh yeah, we can do with less, you know. But you know, I mean, it's like with vitamin D. They came down to the level of if you have less than this, you'll get rickets. Huh? You know, I mean, that's just nonsense. We require higher levels of vitamin D than just to cover rickets. You know, that's just ridiculous. We require, as I've pointed out before, you want to basically make sure you shrink the prostate. You need more vitamin D, and a combination of some as a cofactor. You need retinol as well. But primary thing that controls that enzymatic pathway in the prostate to shrink the prostate is vitamin D. Everybody's fucking deficient. No wonder, you know, things like breast cancer and prostate cancer are on the rise because of low vitamin D. But, you know, they say, oh, we just need to protect you from rickets. That's it. No more. You know, the rest will medicate you. Yes. We will get the kibble and the medicine into you for the rest. Yes, the ladies like the pink stuff. I know when I'm born. I'm a mid-60s kid when I popped out into the world, and then the world was horrified. It's Harry! Oh, shit! Big conversations about salt. I have no idea about Redmond's, so I can't make a comment. I don't know about the brand. I know about the Australian brands, but I probably should look into the brands. It's much harder when you're not living in that country, you know. So what happened when you're actually fourth dimensional wisdoms holding Greek entity that is pretending to be human? Okay, am I one of the other ones? Thanks, mate. No wonder Nurse is laughing with that one. God. I'm an extraterrestrial. Come here to enlighten you, damn humans. Sound like Zverich. Oh, God. It can be pleasurable. I'm a giver, not a receiver. So, yes, it may be painful for you. Yes, I won't go into my sexual habits with my partner. I don't think she would be very appreciative of me opening up my mouth. Oops. What about the milk? Yeah. Look, if you're doing shitloads of lifting heavy weight lifting and all that, milk is really good. You know, you want to build big muscles, milk is fantastic. You only have to look at those Maasai guys, you know, that are doing a lot of physical work, and they've got big, they're lean, they're ripped, and they've got big muscles, you know. So you've got to do the physicality. You just can't guzzle down milk without doing the physicality. Sorry, doesn't work like that. Actually, camel milk's pretty good. Actually, it's an A2 milk, like goat. It's pretty good from what I hear. It's got a lot of beneficial enzymes and stuff like that in it. So, yes, fairly good from what I hear. I haven't tried it. Well, I had something that I was told had camel milk in, but I haven't actually tried it on like its own, exactly on its own, just because you get a product that has it in there doesn't, you're not really drinking. It's not like milk. I mean, we have milk products in processed stuff, but that's not really, it is, you're having a milk product, but it's not really milk, actual on its own, tasting it. So there is a difference. So, but it's really hard to get in Australia, in Tasmania in particular. I know in some other parts of, I think in South Australia, I think one of my subs actually told me that you could get it. I think. I'm not sure. Store dairy is standardised to 3% fat content, sometimes even less than that. Lucky, even less than that. So yeah, it's not the same as the stuff coming out of the tit. Harry, where do I get my MK for? I can't consume liver. Liver is a source. Some seafood is as well. So that's your best option in that regard. So, or supplement, if you have to. Sometimes, emu oil is another one. So emu oil is very high. So that's another option. I can't remember somebody actually asked me, and they actually bought emu oil. They really like it. They actually put it, they put it on a lot of their food and stuff like that. Like they'll cook a steak and they'll put emu oil on it, so, and I can't remember the person, but said they really like it. So, so that's an option. I wouldn't cook emu oil, but I would use it like you would use butter on it and all that, because you don't want to actually damage the fats, basically. So you wouldn't cook it, but you'd have it raw, in the raw form, and it's a good source of MK4. I probably should do I think on one of my videos, you have to go and look at I think I've actually got some information there about the menaquinones. I just can't remember which video. I may have to do a specific one going through every single food to point that out, because it may have been on one of my live streams. I think it may have been, yes. So unless you've got plenty of time and you want to go through my live streams, yes. G'day, Fappers. You're late. Dusters, mate. Dusters. Oh. Fappy baby. God. In like Flynn. I have no idea what he's talking about. But then again, none of us do. Harry's face. Ooh. I can do other things with my face. Really disturbing things. Yes, I have to say I do like good cream. Yes. Creamy, creamy, creamy. Dear Lord Necro. Okay. Stroll looking to me. Yep. More comments. Tiny skin patches. No, I don't take. Basically, for anything that's actually, look, when people come to me and they go, well, I've got addiction problems and all that, I usually send them to PIM. Why? Because you need somebody to manage your journey of addiction. You know, as I said, I've got a full-time job. I don't have the time. I just don't. It's just simple as that. Look, I have in the past sort of managed a few people, and it's on a needs basis. Like if people have really severe issues, in particular when it comes to small children and stuff like that may have severe some sort of neurological or some developmental or some sort of whatever issue, and I've sort of given additional time because I want them to have the best chance in life. They probably haven't had it up to this point, so there's areas in somewhere, and it's hard in that regard, because if 6 years time when I retire, I'll probably have more time, but then I'll probably get involved in some other business venture, because I've got a couple of ideas of running some other businesses and potentially starting a franchise. And so I'm always going to be busy with things that I do in my own personal life. And I mean, this for me is sort of, I wouldn't say exactly a hobby, but it's sort of, it does take a bit more of my time than initially I wanted to. I mean, initially I was just interested in coming on Bart's channel or Pim's channel and just talking about different things and just providing information without actually running a channel myself. That wasn't the idea. That wasn't part of the program, so to speak. And then I had Bart harass me, continually telling me that I should start a channel and he'll support me. And if I have any problems, he'll give me a bit of some information on how I can improve and stuff like that. So it's not going to be that hard, kept on telling me, So it was a bit of a white lie on his side about the amount of time you need to commit. It's not as easy as I thought. I realized that I had to commit more time. And a lot of people were coming with all sorts of problems and also now and then, and sometimes it would take a bit of time. I had one with Alex from the Netherlands, and he had a number of issues, and we sort of troubleshot through a number of the things, tried different things, and then eventually, and this was in the early days when I had more time. Now there's far more subscribers with far more issues and far more emails that I can keep up with, and it's really hard. And that's why I've been searching for people. Like for the general stuff, I usually send them to Bart, and for specific stuff like really intractable things like cancer and all sorts of things that, and also sometimes of the female variety of things, I usually encourage them to go and actually, contact Mary Ruddick, because she's really good. And on a lot of things, I've had discussions with her. And the reason why she approached me, because she actually approached me initially, or made a comment on mine and sort of showed an interest in the stuff that I was doing and all that, because she saw that we had a very, we thought similar on a lot of these issues, and I had a deeper understanding of some of the actual, how you can actually manipulate the gut microbiome and all these different things with B vitamins for a short period of time, and the D vitamin, and how this interacts with different parts of the brain, this back part of the brain and all that. And when she heard a lot of this stuff, because she was actually using some of these methods, she goes, this guy understands this. So we started interacting a bit more. And that's how we sort of, I realized, this woman really thinks very, very similar to me on a number of these things. She's got a much more inquisitive mind, and she's got a mind that basically is a bit more, not this sort of linear, but more lateral, more creative in the way she actually tries to work out problem solving and all that. And I like that. And that's why I said, people need to meet this lady. She's really switched on the right way. She gets it. Where a lot of the other sort of people out there in the naturopathic world or whatever, they, as I've commented, they have this sort of linear approach, over vitaminose you on this thing, because this study says this. So, or the others, the medical doctors, put you on this massive group of pills because this so-called study, which is just observational in nature, says. And what happens, and because my pharmaceutical rep, which is very attractive, she turned up and told me, we've got some beautiful super stuff for you this year. And basically what happens is, these people don't have the time. I've got friends. Remember, one of my cousins is actually works as a consultant in pharmacy, in big pharma. And, she gets sent all over the world, and I know quite well how that world works. And also one of my others, her brother, he's a top medical specialist at one of the hospitals in New South Wales. And I know how the pharmacological, and even my own doctor, he's a person who he's more than just my doctor. We used to play cards together and stuff like that. He doesn't really do that much now, Texas Hold'em and stuff like that. But, I had much more interaction in the past. He's a close acquaintance, let's put it that way. So I talk with these people about a number of these subject matters. So I've got a bit of an insight where the average person doesn't. But it takes time. These guys spend shitloads of time with paperwork at night, basically. I know my doctor, sometimes he's up late and then he has to get up and get into the clinic the next day because he's still dealing with a whole lot of paperwork. It's not easy. Combine that to a full-time job, blah, blah, blah. It's not easy, and you can't do it continuously. You'll burn out. You need to, through this period, I'm taking a break, I'll put stuff here or there, but I am having a bit of a holiday break, beyond my live streams. I'm not really doing much else. I haven't even processed that my walk that I did down Mount Wellington with my mate Sean. I haven't even done that yet. It's still sitting on my computer. I'll probably do it after I get back to work and I'm off holidays. I just want to relax as well. I'm human. I need to basically unwind. Just basically do nothing. Just basically do a bit of walking, sitting around, talking shit or whatever with my friends. Just unwind. Because at the end of the day, you can't burn the candle at both ends without suffering yourself, So it's not easy in that regard. And I know a lot of people, they go to other people and they don't they don't get the same service, which is unfortunate, especially when they're paying for it. And they end up getting better service from me that they're not paying for in many regards. I can't help that. Sorry, but, it's just one of those difficult things. There's only one Harry. I can't clone myself. Or some people would love me to clone myself into multiple Harrys. That's not going to happen. I do need to basically, as a human, have a bit of time to myself. I need to unwind in sort of regard. You can't be wound up. It's not healthy for anyone. So, but if it's, as I said, I will be doing in around February on your condition, and eventually on other conditions as well. I want to do on cancer. I want to do on a lot of things, specific biohacks to stop deal with a whole lot of pathways. I need to do a niacin one. I've seen some new research which contradicts some of the other nonsense out there, and there are some of the other nonsense also out there that could have deleterious effects on people. So I need to get the message out so people realize, these are the pathways. These, the salvage pathway of this part or that part is not working properly, and you're not really getting much result. You're throwing money away, and blah blah blah, which is the NMN. There's a pathway there in terms of nicotinamide, and the salvage pathway, and how that really, there's. But I'm Obviously, I'll be doing all that biochemistry in a very simplified way so you guys can understand. It won't be complex, but it's things that, you know, people are on all sorts of things and doing all sorts of things that I have to explain. And it's easier to do like one video and just explain it rather than doing multiple consultancies, because I don't have the time. So if somebody needs immediate, go and see Mary, I would say, because she's really up to scratch on that sort of stuff. But if you want to wait, you'll get a video, and anybody else that's got a similar ailment, they'll get a video next month on that. And there'll be other videos on other subject matters, and people will be able to use those videos. But remember, those videos provide you a general outline and some general biohacks. But then at the same time, you need to be monitored. So you need a professional that can basically monitor you. You've got feedback, because you need that feedback, because certain things, you know, the U curve, certain things that may work for you may not exactly work for someone else exactly the same way. There may be some other thing that also needs to be addressed. And this is the thing. And that's why you have medical practitioners, that even though they don't do a good job, but that's why you have people, because you need to interact with a professional that basically to look at these things and go, okay, this is how we're going to manage. We'll try this. We'll make adjustments here to this medication or that supplement or whatever, and try and get better effects in that regard. So that's the sort of side, and that requires time, which I don't have. So I will provide the science basis for what I'm saying and a general protocol, but specifics that may be required. A lot of the stuff will probably work for 90% of the people. That 10%, you may be, unfortunately, that 10%, which may need to adjust a few other things or deal with a few other things. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. It's that damn U-curve thing. That's nature. That's reality. That's the world, how the world functions. I never designed it. Look, species appropriate diet does help a lot of things. You know, probably deals with, you know, 90% of the things, but at the same time, there are other things around the periphery. Can we? No. I would not recommend you basically start cutting with a scalpel parts of your body. No. You have really weird thoughts. Oh, the hair's not there anymore. I'd have to grow it again. Yes, I'd have to get over it again. Fair enough. See ya. Probably went a bit of time ago, so we will quickly go through these until I hit something. Ivor Cummings had a good interview with some lads about vitamin D the other day. They advised to get as much vitamin D as you can. Yes, I've been telling you guys from way back about vitamin D. Yes, you definitely need it. And you need the free form as well for other biological functions. It's not only the basically 25-OH-D3, which is a stored version. That's required to be then converted to the active form, the 125-OH-D3. And that goes into, you know, things like preventing rickets and everything else, a whole lot of other things. But the free vitamin D that you get, that additional stuff that doesn't get converted in that, and is what actually ends up in a lot of tissue. That's why you need extra. That's why the RDIs are too low. They're shit. You need the extra stuff because it's required to go into, your macrophage. You don't want a cytokine storm. There are receptors, vitamin D receptors. It will go and sit in that. The T cells and all that, your immune system has got all these vitamin D receptors that goes and sits and regulates all that stuff. So that's why you need, there's enzymes that work in your prostate, in your different organs, in your breast tissue as a woman, all this sort of stuff that are controlling and regulating functions and all that. There are vitamin D receptors there. Your lungs in particular, vitamin D. Remember, the one that actually regulates all the enzymatics that do the remodeling. That means break down the fibrin, the collagen type fibers within your lungs and rebuild them and reconstruct them and maintain the integrity and the structural integrity and all that. Vitamin D plays the key role in dealing with the MMPs in there, something that I've mentioned here ages ago. So it's probably one thing that about regulating collagen throughout the body is the key fat soluble vitamins, which is basically retinol, vitamin D, and MK4. And I've discussed this from the first time you met me back when I was before I even had a channel, the people that know me from way back, I've been discussing about matrix metalloproteinases, those collagen degrading enzymes, and how these fat soluble vitamins regulate all this sort of stuff. So it's way back since you first, I've known about it for about nearly a decade. So that sort of stuff. And I'm surprised that even now that I've talked about it ad nauseum for so long, it's still very few people realize the importance of collagen regulation of due to fat soluble vitamins. It's like, am I the only fucker out there talking about it? There's a few others that have picked up on the stuff that I've talked about, but it's just really not mainstream still, unfortunately. And that's the reason why people don't realize about the importance of basically fat soluble vitamins. See, for the gut, the B vitamins and stuff like that are really important because of the gut microbiome. It's really important. But for other tissue outside the gut, the fat soluble vitamins play an important fucking role. I can't stress it enough. Anyway, because your gut, once you get the beneficial bacteria that exchange and produce B vitamins, you don't need any more of the B vitamins as a supplemental. You get some from the food, and the rest is provided by that healthy gut microbiome, and that's the important part. But the fat soluble vitamins, you still need to get them, and you still need to have good bile in order for the absorption and also good stomach acidity. Anyway, we've talked that ad nauseum. Let me move on. Yes, very important for the immune system. So yes, and the protection of, because remember, this virus does damage your lung tissue. So you need vitamin D also for the enzymes that are repairing your lung tissue. So that's why these people that have got very low vitamin D have so much damaged lungs. It's beyond a joke. It's because of those collagen degrading enzymes. So get the damn vitamin D up. It's not only protective, but also if you do get the corona, you drink a bit of corona, if you do get that, then you will need vitamin D to make sure that the repair work is done. Anyway, let's move on. I missed that conversation. You're still a player, mate. Yes. Hope you're getting enough if you're still a player. You're all slaves. Let's move on. Raw milk race, the raw meat race. Well, what do you think of D-ribose supplements? To be working wonders for my fatigue. Riboflavin. You know, you want to basically, you know, if you're not getting enough riboflavin in your diet, it's probably the reason why these supplements are working. So, are you eating enough animal foods that have got enough, you know, riboflavin in them? It's probably part of it, and you know, there could be other things as well that are supportive of it. So, yes, very important. And hi to you as well. Good to see you, Indy C. Been a while. Really? That low? Shit. So it's all basically just sugar. God almighty. Unless you actually literally go to a farmer. That's bad. Yeah. Yeah, basically, that's all it is. Nutritionally deformed. They probably even put synthetic other shit in there, calcium and all of that. It's probably so badly processed. It's crazy the world we live in. Yeah. Yeah, look, that's the only cod liver oil that I basically recommend for winter, for the winter months. That's the only one. I don't recommend any other stuff. And I don't take it on a continuous basis. I mean, I sort of try to get in a bit now and then in the winter months. So that it was, for me, it was like a top up because it's got vitamin D. And I would go to the tropics for about a month. I would top up. So you had summer, your vitamin D starts declining. You get a bit of cod liver oil, so you lift it up a bit, and some other foods that have got, you know, animal foods that have got vitamin D. So you eat those a bit more. So you keep your levels, you know, not declining as fast. Then you hit the month in, you know, like a place in Bali or Phuket or whatever, and you basically, your levels go right up to, you know, your summer levels, and then they start coming down until you hit your next summer. And at that level you do, and that's the period. I don't take my cod liver oil when I go to Bali or to anywhere else in the tropics because I don't need it. But when it comes to, you know, for that period, I do take it. If I'm having cod liver oil, I do, I'll probably cut back on some of my like cream and butter and all that because I'm getting probably more than enough retinol. So it's all a balance. If the periods that I'm not taking it, I'm upping my intake of cream and butter and stuff like that to get more of the, you know, retinol in. Yep, to ease. The pinch of stevia. I've used stevia in the past, but you know, I sort of don't use any alcohols, sugars anymore of any sorts or whatever. Give them a word birth. What? Well, so if it weren't for Butt harassing one of my favorite channels, wouldn't exist. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He was, come on, Harry, you got to start one, you know. It's easy. That's what he kept on telling me. It's easy. You know, if you have any problems, you just email me or Skype with me and I'll tell you exactly what to do. That's what he kept on telling me. He sort of had, it was a bit of a white lie to some extent. Yes. Nanobots? Yes, that technology is still not mature enough yet. But it is on the horizon, so to speak, but not there yet. Yes, that sort of stuff can be used for good purposes or bad purposes, unfortunately. Like anything, everything's got a dual purpose. It can be militarized and misused, or can be used for, you know, sending things into different areas and doing very minor repairs and stuff like that in the body, potentially, is the nanotech sort of dream of the future. Yes, but we're not there yet in that regard, guys. Believe me, because I come from an IT background before I got into mapping, and I'm still heavily into IT, and I really know all this sort of shit. So I've looked into robotics, AI. Actually, we deal with AIs anyway in my work area. So one that we got from the Queensland University. Anyway. Yeah, so basically, yeah, a lot of this sort of stuff that people talk about is over. Yeah, we're not there yet. And AIs are never going to be like humans. Let me just explain to you why. The AI system uses, a very different architecture. People creating algorithms. That's not how the brain works of humans or any other animal in nature. Our brains more work like an analog computer. That means they simulate things. There are simulations of things, and then different parts of the brain simulate and actually see patterns of simulated patterns. And actually, that's how they make their linkages. Our brains, and that is how we are able to perceive reality. Algorithms can never give you a simulated structure. We create actual structures of information, and we interact with those simulated structures and create new information. Completely different the way, discrete systems work. That is why a discrete system can never become alive or acquire the ability of becoming self-aware. It's dumb. All it can do is very fast computations and basically look at things that are similar and all that. And depending on what the programmer has put in there, it can actually learn from. I mean, we teach our AI and we tell it, well, you made a mistake here, but that is what you should have been doing. So the human is teaching it. And so all it will do is now it knows that certain patterns match this profile or that type of, in terms of vegetation, for instance. And when they do that, they can do it very fast, much faster than humans can do. But they don't know what they're doing. It's not as if they're not self-aware and never will be. So discrete-based systems will never be self-aware, and you'll never be able to upload your mind. So all these idiots out there that are putting shitloads of money into this sort of thing and thinking they will upload their mind, they're idiots, absolute idiots. They'll never get anywhere. But if you create a system which uses an analog computer base, and DARPA at the moment are actually trying to push research back into analog computers because they realize that these systems can do more human-like functions. That is where potentially you could get a very an AI that could emerge. So that part of the technology, but that's still in its infancy, because I mean, even though it's the first type of analog computers come from, like the ancient Greeks built the first analog computers. So even though they have a long history, they were sort of in the 60s and all that, they were abandoned. So they're used in the military for, to simulate certain types of artillery pieces or whatever, to be able to test and sort of set an artillery piece to work properly and fire consistently and stuff like that, to simulate something. But to simulate different things and interact them and create new simulations out of it, that complexity, we have no idea how to do that. We can do sort of like linear simulations, but combined interactive simulations, nope. We're way beyond that. It's probably 1,000 years in the future or whatever. So before we actually have a Skynet, all of us will be bloody dead. So don't worry about it, is basically what I'm telling you. Or we'll get from the current stuff, which is discrete, based mathematics and based on discrete mathematics, and the way they work is very highly productive and efficient systems that will lift productivity. The problem is most of those profits and will go to a very small minority. And so yes, the rest of us will be basically sort of squeezed out into becoming the new serfs of the future, of these great lords of technology who will control us. And basically we will be their serfs, buying their kibble and renting everything for life. We don't need to own anything. Haven't you been told? Get with the program. No. Honestly, guys, it will not give you immortality. It will not basically, allow you to upload yourself. It's not going to fucking happen. It doesn't work like that, believe me. But it can be used for nefarious and really bad things, unfortunately. And some of these people are very nasty and quite evil people. That is true as well. They also want to basically try to manipulate other things. I do have a video on, actually somebody emailed me the damn video. I haven't done it. I will do it. I don't know whether I should do it on YouTube, because I noticed that the channel that did it initially, that found this from the DOD, Department of Defense video, they actually removed the channel completely. I don't want to lose my channel. So I may have to basically do it on, library, upload it on library, not on YouTube. And then basically, by doing that, you'll get the information basically, but I won't be risking my YouTube channel is basically what I'm saying. So look forward to something on library, but I will make an announcement on YouTube, so to be able to direct you guys to the library link. Anyway, so let's move on. Yes, there are nasty people and evil people out there that want to do all sorts of things. Yes. And at least it's coming out of the horse's mouth. They're actually telling us exactly who they are and what they, unfortunately, the information got out. Yes. But I'm still doing a bit of research on the characters to make sure to validate that they are who they are and who they're connected to and stuff like that. There's a lot of, if you put stuff out and you can't back up your, somebody could say, well, that was created by, no, this is the person. They work at this place. They have this relationship with this, what are you saying? Yes. I approach things in a factual way. Guys, I don't jump. Just because it sounds good, it doesn't mean it is good. And unless we've got evidence as an empiricist, I'm not interested unless there's real good evidence. Speculation is not science. Speculation is not truth. It's just an opinion like anyone else's. And I don't have a problem with people having certain opinions. That's their business. We live in a free world, in a free society, well, to some extent. But at the end of the day, for me to put my hand on my heart and say, yes, I truly believe this, and I can actually evidence it, that's when I'll say it. G'day, how's it going, T2? You're on Dusters, mate. Where have you been? Oops. Fair technology will eventually become biological. Yeah, well, these people just, they come up with all sorts of, for them it's a drive for immortality. They spit on God, basically it's all nonsense. They want everything. They want to live forever. They want to control everyone, all this sort of stuff. And the reality is, they're just going to go like the dodo. Just look at people like control freaks like Steve Jobs. He went like the dodo, on his kibble. Didn't help him. So, just because they say things or they believe things and all that, it's all fantasy. So reality is much more difficult to implement. Let's put it that way. And that's why I don't worry as everyone else is sort of worried as if the end of the world is going to appear tomorrow. You know, God, bloody hell, get over it. Actually, we don't really understand a lot about epigenetics and all that. Actually, there is another subclass of certain proteins that are interacting, which is outside epigenetics and some of the other non-key genes that we still don't understand. So there is another area where there are certain interactions between molecules and some parts of the genome that we don't understand, which is not a traditional epigenetic thing. So there may be other factors. As I said, we're still quite primitive in our understanding about glycans, about the other parts of the genome, you know, that we thought was junk, and we're finding out it's not. But there are certain proteins that are interacting in a certain way, and we still don't understand why they do what they do. So reprogramming, we're way far away from any of that sort of stuff because we just don't know. Probably the best thing that we could probably do is probably CRISPR, where you could say, okay, you've got a gene that predisposes you to a certain disease. We'll remove that and we'll put something else there. That is going to be probably possible more than sort of general reprogramming. So specific deletions and insertions of corrections, that's probably not too far away. We've already done some of that at a preliminary level. Chinese recently did it to a child. So that sort of CRISPR technology, yep, that's possible. When it comes to mitochondrial health, there's still a lot we don't understand about the mitochondria. So we're still a bit in the dark about the mitochondria in that regard. How to repair mitochondria, we're still in the dark. The best thing we can do is try to slow down the damage, that we're causing with a lot of deuterium and a lot of inappropriate foods. Trying to repair is very difficult. I've been trying all sorts of biohacks with a number of people, and we are struggling, so it's not easy. Remember what Kermit said? It's not easy being green. Yeah, exactly. So we are still primitive apes, and we have very little understanding. And, some of these guys think that they can basically be more powerful, be godlike. Yes, I'm BSing you, basically. Yes, I see how godlike they are, how much they've actually youthified themselves. Can't you see all of them, how youthful they are? They're in their 20s. Can't you see how young they look? Bullshit. They had that sort of capacity. They would look a hell of a lot younger than we do, but they don't, because they don't. It's all basically smoke and mirrors. They just basically want people to believe this sort of stuff, that they can give them everything. You don't need religion. You don't need this. You don't need that. We can give you everything. We can give you paradise. We will feed you kibble, and we will basically put you in a hermetically sealed environment. We will control every aspect of your life, and you will be happy. Bullshit. So yeah, it's more of a propaganda for control and false promises. Shit, hailstorm. God, I hope some of those feathers didn't get damaged, mate. Oh, fuck. I forgot my coffee. It's gone cold. Anyway, 2 gulps. Let's move on. Shit, that's big. That would do a bit of damage. Oh, shit. Oh, well, insurance come. I hope you've got insurance. Magnesium, does he? Is that a new thing? Have you invented a new supplement? Harry had that yarny hair. Did I? Yeah. Well, at least I haven't gone bald like some of my relatives, you know. So they've got their bald patches. Yes. So at least I haven't gone bald. Actually, even the old man's hair's actually improved. Since he's been eating more meat and doing a few adjustments, his thickness of his hair's got better, which is a good thing. So he can point that out to the other Serpanoses in the family and say, look at my hair. I'm following Harry's diet. I'm looking much better hair-wise. Yes. Yes, we definitely need protein. Yes. All that will be revealed in my future video about B vitamins and how to rebuild a good gut microbiome, and all about the food combinations as well. Telomerase to protect. Oh, yes, yes. Well, mate, I've been telling you, get on to niacin. Okay? You should be on niacin. Not very extreme doses. But you should not be, at least up to 250, milligrams of niacin. You've been told. I mean, it actually improves the telomerase area. It also improves stem cell production to a minor level. In particular, stem cell production in your red blood cells and stuff like that, very substantial. Like it really nice and is really top for that sort of stuff. In improving your oxygenation of your body and all that sort of stuff, and red blood cell, the way it functions. So yeah, it improves a whole lot of sort of longevity pathways and reparative pathways and all that you will get from either stem cells, adult stem cells, or you will get from sort of some intravenous type preparation that people have used in the past, very expensive stuff. Now, obviously, it doesn't actually do as much as some of these other products do, which are more expensive, but it's a sort of the poor man's option, so to speak. So there you go. That was going to be part of a video. You got a bit more information up front before the video, and the proof and the salvage pathways and all this sort of stuff, and my criticism about all the other things that are being pushed by David Sinclair and many others out there. So yes, he'll be my next whipping boy. Anyway, let's move on and explaining why some of the stuff that he talks about is shit. Anyway, Saladino claims polyphenols bad for us. He's right. He's right for once. He's wrong about other things, but yes. Resveratrol and curcumin studies show advantages. Your thoughts? Hormesis. That's my thought. Hormesis. These are reductionist studies that are just showing a hormetic effect. That's all it is. You don't need them. Remember, curcumin actually can cause an iron deficiency. So let's say you have hemochromatosis. I've actually said this before. If you've got hemochromatosis, maybe take some curry powder. You know what? It'll lower. You can do two things if you've got hemochromatosis. It's a very small amount of people that have. You can either go and give blood. Let's say you really don't like giving blood because you're squeamish about it. You pass out or whatever. You can say, okay, I'm going to put a bit of curcumin, a bit of this sort of stuff that binds iron and removes it and makes less iron bioavailable. So I will take that and put it into my, my eating habits. And then you go and test yourself to see where your iron, so you have used too much and you cause yourself an iron deficiency. So until you get the right balance. So that's one thing you can do for that. That's a side issue. That should have been a video in itself. Anyway, but Yeah, I mean, resveratrol can have negative effects. Metformin can also have, because a lot of these guys, are on metformins and resveratrol and all sorts of things. They can have chelating effects, and they can cause other deficiencies and other pathways not to function properly. And that's why, on that point, he's right. So I don't disagree with him on that. On his PUFA stuff, he was wrong. On his honey stuff, he's wrong. But on the polyphenols, he's right. Far too many polyphenols. We get too much hormesis as it is. You exercise, you fast, you get hormesis. You do other extracurricular activities, you probably get some hormesis as well. So, you know what I'm talking about, poisoning yourself a bit or stuff like that. All small poisons, small amounts, can create hormesis and upregulate glutathione. But you know what? Low carbohydrate diet also can upregulate glutathione, because as long as AMPK goes up, glutathione will go up as well. So do you need to poison yourself? Probably not. We get enough hormesis. We've got EMFs. I mean, all our electricity in our home creates magnetic fields. We have more than enough hormesis to create these responses. We don't need to add more to it. It's like, a little poison is fine. Too much can be lethal. Adding too much, especially in our modern environment, not a good idea. If you're a primitive person living out in the bush as a hunter and gatherer, and you had a bit of hormesis from one of these plant compounds and all that, great. Your shaman gave you a bit of hormesis and basically upregulated some repair pathways and just slowly improved your health slightly. But as I said, too much of anything can be a problem. Yes, including too much hormesis. And everybody's, everybody's crazy about, let's do more hormesis. Let me just guzzle down shitloads of sulforaphane, like Rhonda Patrick says. You know what I mean? How much fucking hormesis do you need? It's cheaper actually just to sit under a 5G tower, or, well, actually a 4G tower would do a better job because it actually would penetrate more. So it would actually do a better job in terms of causing hormesis. That's the funny thing. Everybody's concerned about the 5G towers. I'm going, the other towers actually penetrate much deeper, the older ones, So if you want hormesis, that's cheap as. You don't have to pay anything for it. They provide it for free. I mean, sitting out in the sun, quite a bit, UV. There's a bit of hormesis there as well. That's a stress, So, I mean, get your vitamin D up, mate. Okay. Is there any negative aspect of consuming vinegar? I saw a video where Natasha Campbell McBride suggested adding it to cooking to help us extract nutrients. Vinegar can be used for a number of things. Vinegar has been used for a very, very long time. We don't really have any research showing whether it's bad for us or good for us or anything like that. Now, putting it into bone, like you're doing like a bone broth or whatever, yep. Lukey's got something for me. Let me just put that on for a moment. Share screen. I nearly left the studio. Shit. Nearly. I said I nearly. Oops. Vegans, when you mention genetic polymorphism, bioavailability, and the existence of phytotoxins, I see. I don't get it. That's pretty much it. Yes. They do have problems. Those poor vegetarian people. Meat-based diet. Eating shit of plants and hoping all nutrients are right. Actually, you should have put a shark there. Food for the sharks. Toxic food for the sharks. Anyway, back to the entertainment. Okay, so let's continue about this. So so vinegar basically, when it comes to pH in the stomach, it will actually just let's say you've got a pH of, you've got a shit pH, and you take vinegar, you'll only lower it down to about 2.5, which is still better, but it won't really. And if let's say you've got a really low pH of 1 and you add vinegar, quite a lot of vinegar, you could actually dilute your stomach acid. So if you've got low stomach acid, it could be helpful, but if you've got good stomach acid, it could be negative to some extent. In a large amount, we're talking about, not small amounts, like a teaspoon or tablespoon or stuff like a tablespoon. Nah, not an issue. But it's people that take like guzzle large amounts, let alone it's not good for your tooth enamel. That's a different issue altogether. But and will cause demineralization of your tooth enamel. That's a good thing. Be very careful. One of my friends actually said, could you use a straw, Harry? I don't know. Maybe you could, and you could bypass the tooth enamel by strawing it down, using a straw and sort of sucking it down. That's an option. But do you want to be doing that? So as I said to him, do you really want to be doing that? I won't mention names. He knows who he is. He may be on this channel. So basically, now I've used vinegar in another way where I'll basically marinate. Like I'll put some herbs and I'll put vinegar and I'll put it in there like a steak, and it'll just absorb it and sort of marinate it. The other thing about vinegar, it can reduce advanced glycation in products by quite a bit if you use it in meat marination. And then you barbecue it. So it can actually reduce some of those, glycating products. So it has benefits. It also can break down the tissue. So when you actually digest it, it will actually digest much better because it will be softened. So the body won't need as much, especially when people have got, let's say, some digestive issues, maybe a good thing. It depends. Do we really need it? Probably not. Do I like a bit of vinegar to the taste? I have to say I do. I grew up with it, especially wine vinegar. That's the sort of best, sort of covering all points sort of thing. Oops. Oh, shit. It just jumped. G'day, Jared. Good to see you, mate. I just lost my spot. Okay. Salamander, I believe you're referring to. Is that what you guys are calling him now, Salad Boy? Salamander. One of my favourite creatures. You guys, oh God, I thought I was a naughty boy when it comes to that sort of stuff. Sitting at a vegan cafe waiting for my son. Everyone is so anorexic and skinny. Hurry up, son. Bloody hell, Kate. Nice one. Thanks for the laugh. Longevity escapes velocity. Inert. 5 pints of beer and 2 glasses of whiskey. That'll do. In the wrong direction. Yes, I must have. Bugger. You'll have to just remind her at which point, because I can't remember. I'm flowing through all this stuff. Don't catch any for goon germs. With oysters and bacon. Oh, that sounds tasty. That's what I didn't actually have because of the festive season. That's what I didn't actually. We didn't have any oysters this year. I don't know why. I forgot all about them. Vegan germs must be powerful to survive all the Monsanto chemicals shit. That's what I would call it. Yes, yes. Yep, yep. All the AI stuff. Is that what they want to become? Like an old man? Hope you're wearing your mask. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There is a value of wearing masks around vegans. The vegan farts. You're right. You're right, nurse. You're right. You have to protect yourself against vegan farts. Very lethal, as I've heard. Oh yes. Okay. 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 I will take back the card. You know, the duster card off you. You don't have to do any duties. Yes, they are. Epigenetics is also something else outside the realm of our understanding. They show that they can teach mice some tricks in one lab, and the next generation of mice is another. Yes, yes. There's a lot of reductionist nonsense that actually happens out there. There's a lot of things we still don't understand. So, unfortunately, when people jump on a bandwagon, they just want to basically seem like the expert. Oh, I know everything. No, you don't. You know, you only know as good as the best science. That's it. And that is if you're aware of the best science. If you've been sticking your head in the ground and listening to the wrong science, you won't be as up to date. You know, I'm only as good as the best science myself. You know, I can't do experimental work. I can only bring the best science to you. And what I can do is I can analyze that science and say, well, is it sound or not? And give you an appraisal of it, you know. And then from there, where my art comes is I can grab all these bits, pull them together, analyze them in my brain, and work out protocols and methods that are the best. Doesn't mean they're always going to be the ultimate, because there are deficiencies in my knowledge, as there are deficiencies in the entire scientific community when it comes to a number of things. There's a lot of things we don't know. And those deficiencies, that is why you have to do a bit of trial and error, you know, to work out certain things. So even the best informed still have to do a bit of trial and error, unfortunately, for some conditions, not for all conditions. Are you sure? Have you checked yourself thoroughly? No? Well, you're not related to me, so you probably don't. Big missing link some people have no clue about is the important role of prions in epigenetic function. Professor Susan Lindquist was the expert in the area of research. I do. I'm aware of her as well. Yes, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that we don't understand about these proteins. You know, there's a lot of these little proteins that are floating around in the body that are doing also not only prions but other things that we still don't fully understand. We know they interact with certain tissue in a certain way. It's like also the glycans, those sugar molecules. We know they exist. We have some understanding about signaling and all that. We have a general understanding, but we really don't understand the fundamental function. We notice some of the morphology and structure can change, but we don't know what it means. So there's a lot of things we don't bloody know. So when you hear people saying, oh, I know, I'm the expert, go, okay, that person is dangerous. I'm off to try and sleep. Yep, yeah, good. Oh, is that dear? That's late, my dear. That's late. You should be in bed. You should be in bed. You should be a good girl and be in bed. Anyway, thanks for being here, Bo. Take care. Brian is able to modulate epigenetics throughout using DNA directly and can transfer information via mitosis with no DNA involved. It's good to see some of you guys have picked up on some of this information. But at the end of the day, we can all talk the talk about these sort of things, but we still don't really understand how they, the sort of underlying drivers in some of the actual systems. So we have a bit of sort of general, but we don't have deep understanding. It will take some time. Yeah, that's true. I just noticed your last one there. Additional note, Harry. Yep, prions interact with sort of skeletal processes. Yep. And would imply interaction on the quantum layer since, microtubules are in the sort of skeletal. Yep. Sort of genetics is a major. Yep. But we still don't understand. And the problem is, I mean, I look at quantum biology, as you guys know, and there's a lot of stuff in there that still, some of the photonics that are interacting, some of the release of photonics of some of these substances at the subatomic level. We know it happens, but we don't understand how it is actually modulating or interacting or signaling. So it's, I know it's bloody brutal stuff, if you've looked into it, you know what I mean. It's basically brutal. It's the reason why I hold back from basically it's my area of inquiry, looking into that, but I don't see a practical health thing. So even if I know about this, I can't actually get any practical knowledge to basically help somebody fix their health problem, so to speak. It's more my own inquisitiveness, my own interest in these sort of things. And I hope in future we will have such an understanding where we may be able to say, okay, if we use certain frequencies in some way or certain photons in a certain way, we may be able to modulate certain things in some sort of way in correcting things and help things, we may be able to use diet, light, all these things in a number of combinations. I mean, currently I use things like deuterium depleted water or certain light therapy or stuff like that, and combine those sort of things with diet and all that. But we may be able to get to the next layer if we understand in much greater detail how they work. And that's what I'm trying to understand. But even the people that are the experts in the field are still scratching their head on a lot of these things. So, it's going to be a while before we have a deeper understanding. And I don't like speculating. I know some of them do, but I don't. Because when I go down the rabbit hole of their speculation, I end up in a dead end because there are other biological pathways they hit against. And then when you look at that, you go, well, that biological pathway, I know that quite well. That doesn't work like that. So that's the sort of reductionism danger that you could actually fall into. Yes. Anyway, you can't wait. Yes. Eventually we'll get into some like I don't know whether I'll do a specific type. But I'll have to do some sort of really basic. There's a lot of other things on my list. That's a low priority thing because it doesn't have any direct ramifications for most people. But I will, towards the middle of the year, it's in my list, I think. Can't remember now which month in the middle of the year that I would be touching on this sort of stuff and doing some stuff in quantum biology. But it won't be done in a way where you can get a therapeutic thing, but just to give people a general explanation of how these things work in a general way as best as I can understand it, and most researchers can understand it. And, and we'll be looking at literature throughout the whole world because a lot of some of this science and research has come out of the Eastern European area, like Russia, the old Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, some of this research, which is cutting edge stuff. And a bit, from parts of North America where still some researchers still do some good stuff. You know. Anyway, Bernardo's asking me about an Iceland thing. I will be doing a video towards the end of this month. If it doesn't happen at the end of this month, it will happen in February, in the beginning of February. I do want to do one, but I do want to cover NAWST completely. But not only NAWST, but all the other supplements that are using as NADs. So it'll be basically on NAD, and it'll basically, you know, I haven't come up with a name for it. It's sort of, you know, how good a NAD boosters or something along those lines. It's going to be a catchy sort of name or title that I'm going to use. I haven't worked out what title I'm going to use exactly. I've got a preliminary title, but I'm not really happy with it. It doesn't sound as catchy or as clickbaity in a sense. Somebody can come up with a better title, let me know. So that's one thing, and it will go look at all these pathways and how they degrade over time and all that sort of stuff, and explain really and the sort of approaches and strategies you can do in order to help the redox potential in your mitochondria and energy production and some of the healing therapeutic methods. Anyway, it's a long story to go into that sort of stuff. I'm actually also looking at interactions between niacin and other substances. I've come across some really important stuff about healing the lungs, but I'm still looking into it, which have to do with niacin and taurine combinations. But I'm trying to get understand the dosages. That's for a friend that's actually approached me. But I have to look at do my research and understand the proper dosage combinations before I can actually get back to them. They know who they are, and explain that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of looking into that and trying to understand that sort of stuff a bit better. And eventually I will do a video on it as well. So, okay. Okay. No, it just makes you fat. Yeah, I could run with that actually. You know, what are you doing, Harry? My mate Sean. Oh, it's hormesis, mate. It's hormesis. I've been told. He'll just do that and say, "You're full of shit, aren't you?" Yeah. So. Lukey's stuff. Yes, we love Lukey's stuff. We definitely love Lukey's stuff. Whenever I try to explain something to them, I get massive aggression. Laughing emojis. Yes, look, yep. Garbage they heard from one of their zombie gods. Yes. The veg-tarded are very, you know, they've got hormonal imbalances, mate. You have to be sensitive. You know, what's wrong with you? You've got to be sensitive. The veg-tarded are very emotional. You know, they're unstable. They can't control their emotions. It's poor things. Oh, I really feel for them. They need a hug. You know, just don't go too close. Wear a mask if you're going to hug. You know, because they could release a bit of gas. Look, if you're big, you have far more glycogen storage capacity. So yes, so you can sort of get away with it. And then there's also people that actually will build more visceral fat rather than subcutaneous fat. So just because the fat's inside, not on the outside, it doesn't mean you're healthy. Yes, they do find that they are surprised when eventually they get diagnosed as pre-diabetic or diabetic. Some of those people, yes. We've seen it before. We've heard it all before. Yes. Gramps is here. Yeah. Additional note. That's the one we covered that. Yes. Brutish Harry. It's 1,000 times worse than trying to learn assembly language. I actually, at one point in time, did actually have a compiler to do assembly code. Yes. That was a long time ago. Actually, how old was I? Can't remember. I was either 20 or 21. Around about there, yeah. A very long time ago. We were talking about 30 odd years. I even did COBOL. You know, the bankers now are paying over $350,000 to, dollars salary, up to $400,000 for people that can program in COBOL. I'm so, I haven't done COBOL since 30 years back. I'd have to basically refresh my knowledge on COBOL again. And there's been a lot of iterations since then and changes. So it would take months to sort of be like relearning. And it's a sort of, because all their back office uses it, that's a reason for it. Yes. Yep. I've shown the one that I get. I don't know about the others because I haven't researched them enough. I will be looking into other NICE and supplementation. I've shown the stuff that I get in Australia, but once I have more information, yeah. So yes, you can make a killing, Fabnado. Banks, all their back office stuff is all COBOL. And the problem is they don't have enough programmers. They are trying to transition to new, but you still need a COBOL programmer to basically recompile in a new language that information and know how to make adjustments in the new language. And that's where it's very hard to find professionals that know both the new languages and COBOL. And what happens is they usually get programmers that are COBOL experts to make updates to their systems so they work with their front office stuff. That's what they do as sort of a solution until eventually they can transition at some point to a completely new system, which some banks have, but not all. A lot of banks are still using, especially small banks, and they just basically, what they do is they contract people. So people come in and do certain hours of work for a smaller bank, and they pay them very high, per hour, massive amounts of dollars. So yes, in sort of that's the sort of stuff that you will get. But as I've always said to people, that it's always supply and demand. So yeah, but you can actually get anywhere between what was it? Somebody told me it was about, depending on which country you're actually programming in, you can get anywhere from 80 at the lowest. It's usually slightly over $100 per hour, up to $150 per hour. So, if you're doing a good amount of hours per, 40, 50 hours per week, plus, you could potentially get over the 300,000 mark in a year. So, yeah. But it's all updates, a lot of it's updates. So you have to literally go through their code, work out what that actually is, and then work out what updates you need to do in that regard. So, yes. But the problem is they don't teach you. You have to self-teach yourself nowadays because there's no courses in COBOL anywhere. It's all people my generation that either continued programming in it or not. I'm not sure what that was in regards to. Balance what out? Must have been a previous question. It was based on, okay, I told one of my friends I noticed how my mood may get worse after eating wheat. Yep. Look, the reason why you've got, as I've said, you're probably very much gluten sensitive, and it's also wreaking havoc with your gut. And, you know, and probably you haven't really restored your gut microbiome sufficiently as well, because you've been eating a lot of those foods in the past. You know, and what eating an animal-based product like more meats and all that does, it actually provides those B vitamins in a very bioavailable form, and also reduces the foods that deplete them, because, as I said, carbohydrate metabolism requires more B vitamins. So then you have enough of the B vitamins to support some of the gut microbiome, but also some of the neurological functions in your brain. And that's what makes the difference. So this is the whole reason of fixing the gut. You can improve your neurological. That's the video that's coming, guys. So just a bit of a snippet. Diabetic gigantism. Yes. Put down that kibble. Yes, yes. As I said, definitely good. Damn it, I'm at the bottom. Shit. This is the first time for a very long time that I got to the bottom of my stream, and I've still only got 4 minutes to go until 3 o'clock, until 3 hours have elapsed. Fuck, that's incredible. And so, yeah, I hope you're all doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well today with a live stream. I'm happy. Oh, celebrating. Yes. You know what? StreamYard still hasn't come up with the comments that you guys are putting yet now it has. Fucking about a time. Yes, if there's something to be said about PPLs out from land closer to the equator, is to add certain plant indigenous to where they come from to their diet. Not needed, you know. I mean, because a lot of people now in some of these tropical areas, they're indoors. They're working in offices, air-conditioned offices, not getting enough deuterium depletion. So if you're eating plants and you're not getting, especially high glycemic plants, and you're not getting enough deuterium depletion, not a good thing. So it's like being in a cold climate in an office. You're not going to get enough. And remember, a white person in a temperate environment can walk out at lunchtime or whatever and get a bit of vitamin D, not much. A person with a darker skin that's going to be in the tropics needs to be out for hours. So they're going to get very little, even though they're in the tropics, where a whitey like me can go out for 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes and get a lunch break and get all the vitamin D they need for the day. A person with a darker skin with more, stronger melanin, which is protective, because they're out, traditionally they would have been out all day long in, working the land and all that. Those people basically now are not getting enough and they're deficient. And that's why we've seen the explosion of corona in places like Indonesia and elsewhere. When you look at the actual studies where they look at vitamin D status, those who have got the lowest vitamin D status are the people that get the most health problems. So yes, doesn't give you a license to eat whatever you like just because you're in the tropics, unless you're a whitey on holidays and you can get away with it more. Anyway, what did I do? I just lost my spot. Oops. Welcome to the rock. He's on fire, that boy. Good boy. Quick rant. Moving rapidly today, apparently. I've been a good boy. Yes, stick to the yolks, the raw yolks. Not too many, unless you want a biotin deficiency. Yes, cannibal, exactly. In proving that. Recently talked with Michaela Pearson about magnesium and how it and minerals in general can't absorb through the skin like magnesium baths. And there is some truth in that. There is some truth. We get very little minimal amount of absorption. You do get some, but it's small. And also you don't lose much. We don't perspire magnesium or potassium. It's just not the way it works. We actually use it for biological processes, and certain types of biological processes use more. So if you're eating more carbs, you will require more magnesium. So yes. And if you want to maintain homeostasis, remember maintaining the intracellular type of minerals inside, it's basically getting enough salt, in the diet. What do you about the claims magnesium threonate is the only one that crosses the blood-brain barrier? Yes, that's true. As supplemental. In types of food, it's different. Magnesium in food is completely different. The way its ionic form is, it allows it to get through. The difference is when they put threonate, they combine it, it actually gives it an ionic characteristic which allows it to get through the blood-brain barrier. That's the only thing. But if you're actually having pure magnesium, which has the correct ionic form, which comes from an animal food, that will get into the through the blood-brain barrier. It's always supplemental, which we bind with other things, citrate, this, that, acetate, whatever, So yeah, this sort of binding agent seems to basically allow it to get through much easier. That's the only difference. But if you get it from real food, you don't have to worry about those things. It's a non-issue. Yes, exactly. Yes, especially glycinate. Yes. What the hell? That's ridiculous. Yes. Asking in the context of supplementing it while fasting, I wouldn't. The whole reason is, let me just give you a bit of a rundown. What's the purpose of fasting? You're doing it for a couple of reasons. One, to clear out the shit. And also, you probably actually also don't want to be ramping up the production of energy. I mean, you're not breaking down stuff. You're not doing stuff as much in that regard. You're not having to create all these enzymes and all that, You're oxidizing, you're creating some. But there's also an uncoupling effect. So you don't want too much uncoupling. That can actually have deleterious effects to your body. But when you have too much magnesium, you can't uncouple mitochondria. That means you can't create like heat. Okay? So if you want to radiate out some heat, especially in winter, that's why I like to fast in winter, because I just can radiate warmth and go out for long walks and stuff like that and cause some uncoupling to happen. But if I have a magnesium supplement, that won't happen. I'll feel cold. So, yes, you need, it's called magnesium ATP. And if you don't have enough magnesium while you're fasting, what you'll actually get is more of a thermogenic effect and you'll lose more weight. But there are drugs that can actually push that effect even higher, and they can be damaging because you can overheat your body internally and actually die. So there is a diminishing returns. A bit, okay, too much, not a good thing. So I only use salt. That's it when I'm fasting. No magnesium, no potassium, none of that sort of stuff. That comes from the diet. If I keep enough salt in there, I'll have very low excretion rates. If you're doing long periods of fasting, that's a different thing. You may every 3 days have to basically put a supplement in. That's a different thing. It's basically context specific in that. But if you're only doing a couple of days, not an issue. Or time-restricted feeding, like 1 meal a day, not an issue. If you're getting enough from the diet, not an issue. Anyway, what's a bit of a raw eggs overcooked? You can actually get more nutrition from the yolk. And I'm talking about the yolk, not the whites. The whites you want to cook because you'll end up with albumin. You actually end up causing a biotin deficiency. Not a good thing. Very important, we don't cause biotin deficiencies. Remember, biotin is very important for healthy hair or good hair. So get those damn eggs in, cooked. And if you want some yolks, I do occasionally have yolks, raw yolks. I just swallow them. I'll have, sometimes 4 or 6 yolks, in a week. I don't do it every day. This thing about diet choices is getting to my nerves. Like all of us. Yes. Third week. Final essay, this thesis to finish at my uni. Busy, my dear lad. Good to see. Good luck with it all. And congrats on your, your progress. Yeah, look, I know, it's crazy. Yeah. And she's probably not getting enough MK4. She's not getting vitamin D, Yeah, look, I know. It's hard, People have been brainwashed so well by the experts. They don't even believe that you try to say, look at what your parents did and look how healthy they were, or your great grandparents in particular. But they don't want to do that. No, the expert says this. Oh, God. And they keep on suffering, unfortunately. I know, Luke. Yeah. What do you do? Yes, it does. Remember what I said? Salt, protein, and phosphorus, which is primarily in dairy and meat and ruminant animals. Phosphorus. The 3 things, I need to do that video on that study. It will be happening this month. We need to clear that once and for all and show quite clearly the positive effects of this sort of stuff, so you can then link it to people and say, this is what the science says, stop talking shit. Yep, is like a lot of other things that I need to do, so you guys can go to other people and say, you're talking shit, this is what the real science says. Do you know it's World Carnivore Month? I do know that, and I do know some of my friends that are thinking about it. My sister's probably going to do it again. My youngest sister, she does it every year, once a month, just to brag. I did Carnival Month. I said, bravo to you, sis. I do it every single fucking day, Anyway, time of the year when carnivals in the world all over die of deficiencies. That's exactly right. And I've been dying for some time. You're correct, bird-brained. Too noisy. We woke Bell up again. Yeah, we did. Yeah, some of you rat bags are too damn noisy. Exactly. The, calcium basically is just chalk. I mean, a child, when it's born, it has very little calcium in the bones. That's why they're flexible. It's all collagen. Our bones are made of protein. It's collagen. It's collagen matrix. And that collagen matrix then gets mineralization, and that mineralization gives it rigidity. That's all it does. Meat is murder. The animal has spoken, has urinated. Yes. Definitely need to get the right nutrition in, kiddies. Okay, we are getting to that final, I should have stopped a while back, is will. And yes, a lot of that nonsense going around, unfortunately. That is true. Anyway, guys, I'd love to stay, but we have tonight's program as well. So, yes, they're definitely brainwashed, unfortunately. Yes. So, pretty much, I will say goodbye to you all. Yeah, fair enough. Good for him. Yeah, nice one. I didn't realise. Oh, is he? Okay, he's a January. Yeah, my father's January as well, Capricorn. So is my older sister. They're all same thing. I'm a September baby. Yes. So thanks, guys, for being here. I appreciate it. And for those who will be still awake, in about, what are we talking about? Slightly over 4 hours from now. So 4 hours and, 18 minutes. There'll be the Eurasian live stream. So that's coming up. So I look forward to those who can make it, who are still awake. Yes. So do take care. You're welcome, mate. And, just look after yourselves, be supportive of your families, try and actually get some of the information out there and help them in that regard. So, because ultimately it's up to us, to try and actually get the good message out there and stop having the so-called experts BSing our relatives and seeing their health fall apart. You only, the opportunity with this sort of carnival month to say to them, why don't you try it? Or even if you don't want to go full carnival, just add some more stuff in there. G'day, Angela. You're either late or you are incognito. So so basically, you guys just need to consider that you don't need to go hard on your relatives. Just remember, and please like this live stream. I do appreciate it. Helps with the YouTube bullshit stuff, but it still helps a bit. You never know what their policies could change in the future, and we may need to have a certain level of likes and certain level of subscribes and all that to keep the channel going without being culled out. YouTube is it's a quite hostile environment at the moment. So your support is just basically will guarantee this channel keeps going, that is, and doesn't get annihilated in that regard. So keep that in mind, guys. Take care, look after your families in this crazy time that we live in, and try and just encourage them, just try something. I did the same thing with Dad. My father's never going to go carnival. But I just said, Dad, why don't you add a bit more meat into your diet? Lift these little weights, get out in the sun a bit more, just do those sort of things, or take a vitamin D. If they're not prepared to go out, take a vitamin D supplement, or cod liver oil or stuff like that, and you slowly, basically, they start feeling better and they go, maybe I'll try a bit more. What people are like. If a bit's good, maybe more is even better. We know that everything is nuanced and it's not exactly like that. But when people are very deficient, even a bit more, it could be actually the thing that changes things for them, and then they're more receptive to other messages. So that's a really important thing. You never, exactly. You can't tell family shit. That's exactly right. All you can do is encourage, and that is exactly it. Just encourage them to do a few changes here and there. That's all you need to do. And slowly they will come back to you and say, oh, what are you doing? Out of interest, and they'll start incorporating little elements here and there. And before you know, they have shifted quite a bit. And that's how it works. You don't get traction any other way. Exactly, Fappers. That is exactly Fapnado. Lead by example, and encourage them to make small steps. They don't have to make massive steps, as long as they're making some steps in improving their health. And once they see some little benefits, they're going to go, ooh, I feel better. And slowly they will make that shift. And that's the best thing we can do to help our families and our friends, because trying to push it down their throat, the sort of, it doesn't work. We know that. It just doesn't work. You usually get pushback. So the difference is where we have to be honest about these things and be nice in the way we deliver our message. I mean, the vegans use a different approach. The way they get people is by guilting them and deceiving them with emotive things, emotional things. So they try to manipulate, not with truth, but with emotion. It's basically the devil's approach, emotional blackmail, emotional manipulation and stuff like that. That's their method. They are very evil in their way. They're misanthropic. They've got a misanthropic philosophy. And the way they promote that misanthropic philosophy is through these evil manipulations, guilting people and stuff like that, and manipulating them. That's not how we want to do it. We want to do it in a kind and supportive way, with coming from love, that we want to, because we love our family friends, our family members and all that, and we don't want to see them suffering the way they are. And it's out of love and compassion that we have for them that we're trying to help them and give them some encouragement and show them, and as Fapnado said, lead them by example and stuff like that, and try and encourage them, as Shell said. These are the sort of things we can do to try and help them along, Yes, exactly. Anyway, guys, see yous. Take care. And for those who are in the Americas, in the North American, I will see you next week. Take care. And I'm going to try and actually get that video that I did the walk out, possibly either Monday, very early on Monday. I know that Bart's got one tomorrow at about 9:30, so I'll have to be slightly earlier than that, so we don't. So so we're not doubling on that. I'll see how long it is. I can't remember how long it is. If it's too long, I may actually shift it to after Bart's sort of thing, or later, or the next day. Doesn't really matter, as long as it gets out there eventually. That's the main thing. Yes. Actually, Kerrygold's okay, but it's not. There are other varieties in Europe. There are a number of varieties that are really good, like in France, in the Netherlands, and a few other places, which are really grass-fed and really good quality. New Zealand has a lot of grass-fed, and even parts of the US do have grass, fed and finished sources of dairy products. So do look, because remember, we need to support the countries that we live in. We need to support local farmers and local, small farmers that are doing the right thing, that are building this sort of stuff. I support a lot of Tasmanian farmers. I buy their products. Why? And a lot of people say, you're always buying Tasmanian products. Yeah, because I live here and I want to support the local farmers. I want them to survive, And so if you cannot buy something within your locality, which is of good quality, then look further afield. But first look in your locality and support those local farmers, because they need to survive. And the more of those we will have a wide network, global network of small farmers that are doing the right thing and providing really good, high quality foods for us in the long term. Because eventually the rest of the humanity will wake up to the kibble that they've been consuming and the sickness and the suffering that they will, and at some point they will wake up and see us vibrant, healthy, really not suffering, and they are suffering. They're going to go and turn around and say, what the hell are you doing? and they will then make the shift, profound shifts, like we did when we saw other people and we realized, oh, this is not working for me. I need to make a shift. So, see you guys. I'm out of here.